More importantly, it might keep your battery life.
Oh, sorry.
You're fine.
Thank you so much. Hans Wizard.
It was a polite request. It was a polite request, not politely accepts the proper.
You're such a gracious gentleman. Remy, do you want pizza? Oh, is he? Oh, do you plan to talk about Anyone need
We don't tell Noah that I needed help. They tell me to do it all by myself.
No way. Can you move it so they can't see if I'm playing video games?
Oh, this is my show.
Damn it.
Here you go.
I have to fix my time.
Oh, thank you. Tanner, we're de-ratifying all the design things tonight. You should be paying attention.
Why did you switch your camera?
I have to plug my computer. Thanks.
Oh damn, it's like hella delayed.
Yeah, are you playing Assassin? Here we go. That's great.
Does anyone have vegetarian? I want some.
There's not one of their here for doing it.
That's a slice. Okay.
Wait, could you borrow? Could you say? Oh, do you want some? Sure. Okay. Wait. Let me just take a few. Yes, you guys can take them. Okay.
This is also my dinner. Tanner, would you believe me if I said I haven't eaten in 2 days?
Thank you.
Sadly, yes.
No way we are meeting up.
Third-year lag.
Yeah, I delivered cheese. It'd be fun to do.
I thought Mahir and Sasha were in the middle.
Oh,
Aren't they?
I have something else. Yes. Oh. I will request another slice at some point. Wait, okay, let's see.
I hate the time in this stream.
It's funny, it's very delayed.
Shut up, Barb. Oh, we're good.
What's the one rom-com of like?
All right. Welcome back from your break. Hope your pizza is delicious and not too cold. This is Speaker's business, which is in fact my business. Welcome to council. I know this was a bit of a process to get here, but we're here now and we're going to have a great time. I'm going to start council as we always do by recognizing the land on which we meet on. It's the traditional land of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee peoples. Every day I try to take some time to acknowledge how lucky I am to be able to live and learn and play on these lands, and I invite you all to take some time of your day to do that too, today and every day. In my notes it said, sorry for the late start and the chaos wall. Okay, cool. A couple reminders. If you're proxying today, I know we have a couple people who are proxying. It's a busy night for everyone. When you're voting, you have to vote as your proxy would vote, as the person who gave you their vote would vote. Try your best to not vote in your own interest. Also, this is a small thing, but when we're transitioning between who's voting for the motion and who's voting against the motion, try to make it clear which one you're voting for. If you're taking a while to move it around or something, it can get confusing. Also, happy third to last council. So, reminder that next council is going to be AGM, so everyone who comes gets a vote, and there's going to be lots of exciting things happening here. Cool. All right. Great. We're going to move into presentations. If you have any questions for the presentations, you can ask them afterwards. We're going to start with the first presentation from Antiquaries.
I will say this layout makes it so easy.
Yeah, there's also not that many guys on there.
I'm proud of Barb. And you, also.
Technical difficulties. Give us
this weekend, and I decided to do this presentation because we do them for ESCO and CFES ones as well, so I figured it made sense. Particularly to note that Antiqueers Canada is very deeply integrated with CFES and ESCO in all of the regions, so it just felt like it particularly made sense. So, a lot of you probably don't know what Antiqueers is. It was founded in 2017 at McMaster. Our chapter, we think, was 2018, or as far as we can tell. Generally, they focus on professional development, education advocacy, and social connection. And 29 current member schools, and have finally made it to every single province as of this year, which is fantastic. And Maddie and I are both presidents this year. It died over COVID, and we brought it back last year with Anna and Zoe. Love them. So now that we are taking over for at least this semester, we wanted to kind of draw a little bit of attention to it. In other words, please come to our study sessions. They're on Thursdays from 1:30 to 3:30. Okay, so the first day was mostly just getting there. There wasn't anything super specific, so I just jumped to day 2. So it started with an EDI training, very common to what they do with ESCO and CFES conferences. Pretty much the same one is derived from Antiqueers. They made it. Then we also did a student partners presentation, which was going through ESCO and all of the regions and basically what they are for those who didn't know. Then of the sessions that I went to was session 1, which was finances and logistics for student groups. The other option was engineering connections, tips for students to develop networking skills and shine in interviews, which I heard was very good from those that did go. And then panel 1 was supporting the next generation of career engineers doing mentorship and community building, which there were 3 different speakers. All of them were super talented and had a lot of really incredible things to say, so it was a very good session. And then the second session that I went to was how to be an effective inclusive leader, and the other one was understanding trends and gender diverse experiences and supporting authentic gender expression. So I do like the very widespread of trainings that they had here. I tended to go more towards the admin-based ones because I wanted to learn a bit more about that specific area of joining these 2 topics. And I do feel it's very beneficial, especially for learning how to beef up our Antiqueers chapter, since a lot of the other ones are very successful long-term. But of those, I talked to several people that went to the other ones, and they said that those were also very educational and aligned with their personal experiences for the most part. So I think it was overall very beneficial. And these are some photos. There wasn't very many. They haven't released the professional ones yet, but that's what I got. Okay, and then day 3 opened with a presentation from PEO. And then session 3 was one called Navigating Change. It was supposed to be one about basically ethics and labor laws, which would have been very interesting, but I think the speaker fell through, unfortunately. But that was still a very, very good one regardless. That was several people's favorite section of the entire conference. Panel 2 was the power of diversity, fostering inclusive culture and engineering, which was also a really, really good one. It was from all female identifying individuals, and they basically talked about their long-term experience. One of the speakers was from a company called Spin Master, who does toy development, but they have been a very long-standing advocate behind women in 2S LGBTQ+ individuals in the workplace. And they were also one of the biggest sponsors of the event, so they had a lot of really incredible things to say. And then the other option for session 3 was careering engineering leadership and advocacy. I had chosen to go to the Navigating Change one so I could kind of counteract what I had gone to on day 2, but it was also a very, very good one from what I was told. And then they did a roundtable discussion going over all the different panels and sessions and what we thought of them, which was a really beneficial conversation. And then there's a career fair and a gala. Yeah, some photos of the gala, that was in a giant church and it was really pretty. It was really cool. And then day 4 was doing the elections all day and conference bits for the next year of conference. So it'll be hosted at UBC, which is really cool. And then, since I was at the elections all day, other people went to ethical frameworks, how ethics and unconscious bias interact, and how to say no. That session 4 is a really important one, I think, especially for people who are not a part of any minority communities. But from what I was told, it was structured very, very well, and a lot of people learned a lot, which is really awesome. Yeah, and then that's our VP, who's standing, now VP, who was Prez, and then the person kneeling is now Prez. So congratulations to them. And then I want to give it a bit of an overall. So I rated like a 4.5 out of 5. I think it's very beneficial in the grand scheme. I think other people would have benefited more than myself in terms of the sessions, just because I've been in leadership positions and been out as queer for a very long time. So I think I've well explored those two facets of my life, but it's very interesting to see how they interacted because I hadn't necessarily explored that option previously. I do think it would be very, very beneficial for particularly first or second years, or third years going into leadership positions, or if people are newly queer. Because a lot of the sessions were laid out in a way that made it very easy to understand things. So, for example, one of the ones I particularly liked was their leadership-based training. Having been in very heavy leadership positions previously, it was pretty much what I was used to, but that was one of the best definitions of leadership I've ever seen in their different sections. And they did provide all the slides, so if anyone wants to read through the presentation, just let me know. Yeah, I did want to say, I think it would be beneficial to consider adding this conference to the Director of External Relations budget to send delegates, particularly because they work so closely with ESCO and CFES. It is a very similar nature, so I think it makes sense if we send people to those conferences that we consider people sending people to this one as well. Especially since it's in such a unique perspective, I think that could be something very beneficial to consider for next year. Especially with trying to get such a wide spread of people, and especially people that are coming from a very different area of our student body, I think it will draw in a new selection of people that we haven't previously for these conferences. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Does anyone have any questions? Pete.
I don't know if you're allowed to disclose this, but how much was it to attend the conference?
Tickets were $265, and then I had to do transit.
Okay.
Which is in Montreal, so it wasn't too bad, but next.
Is it always in Montreal?
No, so it's based on the school.
Got it.
So ETS hosted it this year. UBC will be next year, but they also said it'd be a 3-day conference, so I think it will be less expensive by default. And it's mostly just going to transit is going to be the thing that ramps up. And we hope to talk to the faculty about helping fund it, but they tend to not give that much for conferences, so that's why we're hoping for the Director of External Relations support in that.
Cool. Okay.
Are there any further questions for? All right, thank you very much. We will next see the presentation for bicentennial vision presentation. Senator Vela.
Perfect, thank you. Hi everybody, if you haven't met me yet, my name is Lucas Baylog. I'm the Senior Engineering Senator. So I've been around for a few years representing all engineering students here at Faculty Board and at Senate. My co-senator, Jenny Bro, unfortunately could not be here tonight. She has a midterm and also has not mentally recovered from 274 yet, which is fair. So about 2 weeks ago, every single Queen's student got an email from the principal's office about the bicentennial vision, which linked to a website, which linked to a PDF. Hands up if you actually read that PDF. It's about 13 pages, starts with a 4-page history lesson. The dean himself admitted that he needed a dictionary to actually get through it. Okay, that's what I expected. If you haven't, I put the QR code there, it's also up there. I'm going to run through it really quick and then try to get opinions, because me and Jenny have to go to a meeting with the Senate, the board, and everybody with an important title at Queen's on March 8th. And we have to basically try to figure out what Queen's is, and also represent engineering in a way that makes us strong and going into the next century of Queen's quite well. Can you go to the next slide, please? So, quick history lesson. Next slide, please. I'm going to summarize the first 4 pages. Back at our first centennial, so 1941, we were at war. STEM and sciences and technology taking huge leaps, industrial revolution, all that stuff. Most of our degrees, engineering as a whole, got it started around that time, right? So post-secondary was really shifting. As well as there was finances, the Great Depression, 1930s didn't help. We've seen COVID as well as a lot of other financial issues wreak havoc on the industry, the economy, the government, and most importantly to us, the post-secondary sector. And then again, so that leads to a lot of education shifting. What is the actual value of a university degree? Who needs it? How do we get more people into it to fund our institutions, to have the research to continue our goals as an institution, which at a base level are to create knowledge, to preserve that knowledge, and to share or teach that knowledge. So that's what the 3 areas of university always are: research, libraries, and students. Next slide, please. Perfect. So that's what the sector did 100 years ago, and that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing a larger question towards what are the humanities and arts and social sciences, what is their purpose in our society, does it make sense to keep funding them? If you don't know right now, every faculty except the Faculty of Arts and Sciences being taxed essentially at 5 to 7%. It's been shifting back and forth, and of all the other faculties. So not only has our tuition been frozen since about 2018, and so the Faculty of Engineering has been trying with less and less actual value to offer the same level of programs, but now we're actually having money taken away to go to these other programs. Jack, did you have a point?
Oh, it's 4% currently.
4% currently, thank you. Yeah, there's talk about going up to 7, but we kind of fixed that. But that being said, we had a lot of development, a lot of good things that came out of our centennial. Clark was born. Clark is now getting old as the Director of Internal Processes. Now, I think we only have one tonight, 2 maybe, can attest to. McLaughlin, a whole bunch of these other buildings that we feel as staples were built around that time from alumni donations, from a big boom of bringing students in, and that's what we're looking at next. Next slide. Perfect. So as I said, technology is changing. AI is absolutely crazy. The amount of people that have been caught cheating with AI is growing, but they believe it's a lot less than what they think it is. We've been talking about with the Smith donation as well as for years what education in this modern era looks like. And now we're looking at what is Queen's currently, what do we want Queen's to be, and how do we get there so we're ready to go into our 3rd century as a university at the best we can be on the most united front. So they've been talking about this plan for quite a while now. Some stuff happened in the summer last year. They didn't communicate it too well. People got upset. And we've been back and forth about trying to figure out how to reshape the university. So there's been a couple ideas proposed. One was engineering shrinking back down to about 3,000 students. So that's where we were in around 2015, 2016. That would put us on par with commerce. There's been talk about us growing to almost the size of the Faculty of Arts and Science. There's been talks about grabbing computing and dragging them over. There's been talks about grabbing computing and making them their own faculty. There's been talks about making health sciences double or triple the size. There's lots of talk about things, but we haven't been able to settle things down because nobody's really talking about what we actually want and what we want to see. The challenge with that being is, next slide please. We don't have a lot of great infrastructure. Unfortunately, we don't have Sci 2.8 this year, but it sucks having APSC 111 and 112 in buildings like Dunning, because that's the only place we have lecture space. I'm not sure if everybody's realized that your class schedules have been getting worse and worse and worse because we're adding more students in, so the available tutorial and lecture hall rooms that we have isn't working. So instead of having some of the nicer schedules that we had where everything made sense and you kind of have a linear flow, they can't do that. They just kind of throw everything in a system and hope that we get enough classrooms to have people where we want them, but often we don't. Living space has been an issue. I'm not sure how much everybody's paying in rent. I know it's way too much. I've been on the university about that, and I just need to give the provost a desk there now, and he immediately reminds us all that he is concerned about the lack of available living spaces in Kingston. Which gets us into our last point about financial pressure. So I'm sure you've heard lots of talk about it. Basically, province of Ontario, which by the way, the election's coming up, so you should all vote, funds universities at half the average of any other Canadian university. So we're already not doing great, as well as then they've frozen tuition and not kept it up with inflation. So universities are trying to offer programs in 2025 with the purchasing power that they had in about 2014. We've also doubled in size since, not quite doubled, we've increased about 50% since then. So we don't have the space, we don't have the money. The easiest way would be to just grow and add a couple thousand students, but that decreases our educational quality. We don't have the space on campus, we don't have the space off campus, we don't have the faculty immediately accessible for that. I believe computer engineering can speak to that. So we have a lot of struggles. What I want to do today, if you've seen the last couple slides of my presentations, I've got a couple leading questions just to kind of narrow down a couple things. Okay, as long as nothing's going to blow up. That I want to get the opinions of council on, so we have something to go forth from. I want to get a conversation started. So I know we got a lot of presentations today, so we're gonna go quick. But if you have other thoughts, please pull me aside after council or email me. My email is sender@edgestock.queensu.ca. But yeah, I'm trying to get opinions. Before I get to that, have I confused anybody? Have I said anything wrong? I just want to see if there's any clarifying questions people would like. Yes.
I have a quick question about, actually, I was talking to some of my friends in
Life sciences, yeah.
and they were saying that the school is thinking of turning them into health science, so that life science is definitely the future. Do you hear about that too? I don't know, I just curious because
so,
of my friends. We're talking about
Lots of things like that are on the table.
Okay.
Where we need to deal with the tuitions we have and the programs we have, because we're not allowed to create a new program, or if we do, the tuition for that is based on our other programs. So that's what they're trying to do. Is life sciences is a bachelor of science degree, so they're trying to drag it over to health sciences. It's not that health sciences degree is a lot more tuition paying, but I was hearing today that they're looking at lobbying efforts, and they think the provincial government is actually going to be making some moves and allowing tuition in the health programs to go up, just because of the lack of experience our health professionals are getting, because we can't get the proper lab equipment and stuff for them. Yeah.
Honorable ARB Chair, was anything said about the nature of complementary studies courses for operator engineering students, and needing them to complete their degrees, and the options perhaps decreasing in the future with this plan?
So that's in the faculty plan. This is a wider university plan about what the university itself is like, as well as our kind of our culture. But that then doubles down. The dean will be leading an effort with faculty board and within the faculty. Once the university has set their strategic mission, their strategic values, then we need to start planning within the faculty itself as to what that will be like. But that will be up to my predecessors in about a year or two. Yeah, getting old. Right,
You said part assessments.
Success, yeah. I'm in Eng. Yes. Yeah, next one. Aha! Okay. So, my first kind of question is, if we're changing Queens for the better, if we want to take the next step, be a university that leads in the next century, what are some big changes we want to see at this university? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel like that's also one of the things you mentioned here is, which I feel also does lots of students who have never seen the J, that we also feel that there's a better balance between academic and non-academic spaces for the students. As I also feel like you probably make it honestly to do that too, as we are one of the very few places that don't have 24/7 access to our non-academic spaces. So you feel a better balance with that, as I know that university might want to push for more academic spaces to be able to get a bigger number of students, which is also understandable, but I feel a non-academic space is very needed for the student life, and this is one of the selling points of Queens. So less Queens is the case, well, non-academic spaces would be just a first part.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. That's a very good point. I was planning on bringing something to the attention of the board about design spaces, kind of as a more specific item, but yeah, definitely non-academic spaces in general is something we want to see changed.
I think it's that order. Oh, you're in order.
Here's just that one. So we have to talk back to board rep. Also, something to note about the academic space thing is that last year, this is something we talked about a lot. I don't know what conversation we have this year, but the study rooms in the ILC have slowly taken over by faculty members for like several years now, and so we had to push back on 3 different rooms last year, and then I come into the ILC this year and one of them's gone already. So, just putting it out there.
So yeah, it's a struggle. It's something the dean is quite happy that they opened the new offices, but yeah. Connor, yeah.
Honorable Yuri Chair, I was going to say, having just recently been on the master campus for OEC, I think a big thing that we're lacking here is for all disciplines. It exists for some disciplines, but spaces for recreational academic learning is, I think, what I'm going to say. And there's a lot of disciplines who don't necessarily have access to tools they want to, play with for their projects in their free time to learn more about their stuff. And I understand it's not as easy for all disciplines, but like when I was discussing capstone with the debate lead, who was also in chemical engineering, and I said, yeah, I don't have this value, they didn't give it to me. And she goes, oh, just use this tool in your lab. And I go, you're allowed to use your labs? That should be something that is, again, something we're missing moving forward.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, good point on equipment too. Yeah, and that's, yeah, so I think that's been two good points on infrastructure. That's definitely a key point here too. Another question about this is kind of culture and what we're setting up that way. Jack, and then yeah, we're gonna move on. Next question.
Yeah, I think broadly, a bit more university support for student-led advocacy work and initiatives and everything. Like the selling point of Queen's University is the student life, and I think anyone who's been heavily involved in orientation week, in a lot of other student government activities, or just big stuff on campus, can attest to the fact that oftentimes it feels like working with the university in those contexts is them making things more difficult, not less. So I think in general, a bit of a culture shift within the administration towards support for student initiatives is at least something I would like to see, because I think that student activities bring a lot to the university and add a lot of value, and sometimes don't get the credit that they deserve.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point, and that's something we're looking at is how can we restructure the university centrally to be more efficient. There's talks about handing more off to the individual faculties to operate, and there's talks about bringing it more centrally so it's the same right across the campus. And that's a lot of different conversations we're having. Sometimes about classroom spaces, sometimes about accommodations, sometimes about working with students, that sort of stuff. I do want to be respectful of everyone's time, so I want to move on to the one that I'm expecting to get a lot more on, is what are some things that you might be worried about, some things that I've been talking, you've been like, oh crap, I really hope they don't do this, that I think we should be warning against, even if it's maybe obvious. Yeah, speaker.
I don't often speak. Wow. My name is
Ready.
Lobo, and I'm the council speaker. I don't usually speak, but I do want to emphasize my personal feeling of importance of campus, of the faculty and the university providing better support for off-campus living and on-campus living. I personally struggled a lot to find a place to live, and students can't learn, and we can't give them money if we don't have a place to live off campus, and there was little to no support available for me, and I'm worried that but to me, that's one of the more important things when we're thinking about the future of Queens, is that Queens have a place to live, like Queens students have a place to live, and they're able to go to university without worrying about where they live.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely increasing in size related to housing. Yeah, perfect, thank you.
Temporary EC president, like two things, but I'll focus on one. My main concern with what I was reading in that document was that they're going to shift even more to STEM related from humanities, and I think that what Queens, I think, is trying to do, at least from my perspective, is become like a tech school, but that's not what, like, sure, architecture are great, technology, science, all great stuff, but what makes Queens great is that we have all of these well-rounded programs that feed off of each other, as well as the people that come to these programs. Like, not to dig on another school, but people see Waterloo as a very high science tech school, but not a very good culture school, at least from the outside. And reiterating President Walker's point, I think that the biggest draw of Queens is the student culture. And then I'll state this quickly, my other point based on student culture is, for the love of God, do not let them get rid of the free discipline choice. Because that's a huge student culture in terms of collaborative culture in engineering that draws people, and that will completely nuke the student life, especially in first year.
So free discipline choice, great point. We're coming back to that in the faculty board report tonight. but yeah, definitely as a culture, and that's something that the arts and humanities. Who is Lahoot? Yes, Dr. Lahoot is the head of the classics department. He's been quite vocal about the importance of classics and that within the structure of the universities. That's very much something we want to be trying to keep. It's figuring out how to do that from a financial perspective, because right now the arts and humanities are bleeding, and there's no sign of that stopping anytime soon. Yeah, maybe May, and then we'll move on.
I just don't want them to. They should be worried about this as a terms of engineering. Like, we already have problems trying to find humanity courses to take that fit in schedules, and then cutting a lot of them just for. I mean, it's really bad for everyone in humanities too, but like, right, from an engineering perspective, like, it's already hard enough to find classes. So yeah, just let them know that that point still stands, because if they're trying to get more engineering students and cut less humanities, there's going to be no classes.
Okay. Yeah. Struggling to find electives in these programs. Yeah, no, that's a very good point. I am unfortunately going to move. Yeah. Okay. Last thing I want to make on this question before we go into my last one, which I'll try to do quick. If Queens was magically able to do everything right, I would like to see hands up if you would be in support of your tuition going up, if it means you got access to more services, more opportunities, more both inside and outside the classroom at Queens. Think about it for a second. Would you be in favor of that?
Are we talking like
our current tuition is $13,000. Let's say it goes up to $15,000, but we get all of the services and stuff we could ever dream of.
Like, what do you mean by services?
We would have a better food bank. We would have an arcade and a bigger student lounge. We would have labs for everybody to go in after work. There would be maker spaces for everybody. We would have TAs. We would have study rooms. We would have mental health and physical health services that you can actually walk into and get an appointment for the same day.
Yeah.
Okay. That being said, who has the trust that if the university was given more money because our tuition went up, that they would actually get value, that we would actually see the value of our increased tuition? That's what I expected, just want to make sure. Okay. This row, shut up. This row, quiet, please, you're talking. I want to ask the rest of the room my last question. What do you see Queens as? Now that you've been here, some of you 1 year, some of you 4 years, what do you think Queens is as a university and that you think is important and you think we need to keep in mind as we're making these decisions about a long-term plan? Yeah?
The culture.
Culture? Can you define culture specifically? Because sometimes in engineering our culture gets us in trouble.
I would say a culture of like togetherness, not just in engineering, across all of it.
Perfect answer, I love that. Somebody else have any answer?
Same answer.
Same answer. The culture, yeah. Is teaching excellence something that resonates with you? Do you think we have good teaching programs you can actually learn something? Yeah, Jack.
I think yes. I think something that I have said in conversations with the faculty before is you don't come to Queens because you want the best education. You come to Queens because you want a very good education and an excellent student culture. But we do we're consistently ranked top 10 in McLean every year. So I think it's easy to get all boo hiss, the university sucks, but the students are awesome. But the teaching here is actually very good.
Yeah.
I think kind of follow up on what Jack said, I think there's, a well-rounded culture, and some of the teaching comes off as really excellent, and then I feel like there's a bit of a divide between professors where some you can really tell that they're here for their own research, and they're not giving back to the students, and you feel like
So I like that you mentioned the divide between the focus and stuff, because one of the conversations that we're having about this is, should we adopt a faculty model similar to Waterloo and a lot of American universities, where there's teaching track professors and research track professors. So the teaching track professors would still do research, but that would be about a third of their job as it is now. The other third being teaching, and another third being some administrative and other type stuff. And then we would have other research-focused ones. About 75% of their job is just research. We have like a grand total of 10 right now, and they're all in the hospital. So that's been something we've talked about, especially because if we have more research-focused professors, we bring in more research money without needing, and so that's money that we can bring in without the need for another 400-person lecture hall. The more research money we bring in, the more our research rankings go up, which affects our reputation, which brings us in even more students, because our research reputation does have a dropping effect into our teaching reputation. Last point here, and then I do want to get on to bed.
Sarah Bork, Math. I know the math faculty already does that, and I talked about their long-term planning.
Yeah.
They hire just teaching fellows. They do very small amount of research. Most people they hire just for research, so that's already implemented in
Yeah.
math faculty.
Okay, is that postdocs or like professors?
Professors.
Oh.
Because they kind of revamp their fluids and turbo faculty, and they hire specifically people that would be teaching multiple courses and
Yeah.
doing less research.
Yeah. Okay. That is interesting. Thank you for correcting on that. Okay, perfect. That is super helpful. I will be watching the recording on this. Again, please, if you have any other thoughts, I stick around council for a bit. My email is very open. I do want to hear from all of you. You also got an invitation to an open house that was last night. Out of the 28,000 students currently registered at Queen's, 30 signed up for the open house to talk to the principal about this plan. So we are struggling a bit with getting insight on it, and we're doing what we can and talking to the other senators to try to get some student input. But yeah, this was very helpful. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Oh, there's another one coming up. Perfect. Yes, please go to that. Yeah, I love Patrick Dean. Very nice. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Baylock. Okay, we're going to move into our last presentation of tonight, which is an event fund presentation. As a quick reminder, we're in a different room today, so remember when you're talking to talk loudly so that we can all hear you. Use your best projection voices. I know you didn't do your vocal warm-ups like I did. All right, event fund. Oh, also there will be a motion about the event fund following this, so please keep your questions of the presentation to questions about the presentation and not about the motion. Okay.
Well, hi guys, I'm Monica, Director of Academics.
And I'm Paige Ellis, the event fund manager.
So today we're just bringing you the event fund proposals we've been working on for the past semester and a little bit. Essentially, the way this is going to run, we're mostly going to read off most of them. Ones that need special attention or really big purchases are highlighted. We'll give some more details about that. And then the bottom of most disciplines have just one side, but some have multiple. After all purchases are listed, it's going to have a total, and that number there is just the total of the purchases. And then just a quick clarification on DSC. Can you hear me like this? Okay, good. DSC allotted funds, all that from revenue, all that means is, so we talked, I think it was last council or the one before, that the revenue this year was $160,000. So that is split in proportion to discipline sizes, and that's basically what you get, your ratio of your discipline times 160,000. There's going to be a quick note on that when it comes to the general fund, but I will explain that at the end so that I don't overwhelm you with information right now.
Okay, so starting with Apple, and I just want to clarify the priority column there. So we had a category this year where, sorry, can everyone hear me? Sorry. 1 is top priority, 2 is medium, 3 is lowest priority. So we had all of our coordinators rank their purchase ideas like this. So for Apple, they have 3 items: Apple iPads, Apple Pencils, additional Apple Pencils. Their first priority are Apple Pencils for pre-existing iPads. Then they would like to get more iPads, and then obviously get more Apple Pencils. And then that total is $7,971.
Okay. For Chem Eng Chem, their confirming some details before we send this off to the dean's office. So the actual cost of it's new reaction kinetics, which is lab equipment. So it used to be used in labs before, but it doesn't work anymore. So the faculty has kind of like moved their labs around it rather than replacing it. So we're arguing that this is in the spirit of the Med Fund, but it costs $46,000. Kev is asking for $14,000. We are just pending actual confirmation from the faculty that someone has agreed that they will be purchasing this and that the department actually is going to put up the rest of that money so that we don't allocate it and then just lose it in the end to reinvest it in the Zig fund.
So this is Civil, and they're buying a wireless voice amplifier, a self-priming circulation pump. Most of these are for civil labs as well. Concrete for this vibrator, battery packs, charger, multi-parameter meter, a dual scale for general labs, and then we have the automatic soil processor highlighted. This is for a lab, and this is going to be the major purchase as it is $17,473, and then that total here is $24,111. And then on to ECE. So we have a couple purchases here. We have these like Samsung Interactive Pros. They're like kind of like touch screen, right? They're you're able to work between devices on them. HDMI adapters, a desoldering station, iPad Pros, Apple Pencils, iPad cases, an industrial printer that they want in Bain, Bamboo 3D printers, and Raspberry Pi boards. So altogether that would be $40,552.
Okay, so next is EdgeViz. We've got study tables, dry erase boards, dry erase board markers, chalk. Reason we have Wolfram Ultra Pro Premium highlighted is that there's the quantity is 3. I believe that means it's going on 3 computers. That is why it's highlighted. I'm just kind of like waiting for a response to confirm that that is yes. Okay, there, we got confirmation. So it's just going to be on the computers in the physics computer cluster. And then Lenovo USB power adapter, just some chargers, TV display for the Sterling computer cluster, a wall mount for that TV display, and some chairs. Okay, next for Geo, we've got some compasses, we've got geophysics equipment, vertical motion seismograph, if I pronounced that right, printer paper, printer toner, and that's it. For mechanical, so this one is split on 3 slides just because we couldn't fit it into one. So we kind of have, it's 3 items, and they're kind of like grouped together, but they have subcomponents to them. They all have, each like item has multiple subcomponents, but it has to be all purchased as one, if that makes sense. So they're all on separate slides. First off, we have stuff for robotic arms, and those are just supposed to be used to enhance the labs that are available to Mac students. So those are just literally going to add new labs in your classes. And yeah, that is a major purchase, $28,000, almost $29,000 for the entire pack of stuff. And then next we have Arduino kits. The reason that this one is highlighted, again, some logistics that we're figuring out with the department is whether these are going to be distributed to students at the start of the semester and then collected at the end, or if we're going to do more of kind of like a bursary system, where it's like if you need this, you can sort of like we'll set up something with maybe the MEC DSC, just to make sure that we're actually benefiting the students for multiple years, and that is just not getting handed out and only benefited from for 1 year, just to align a bit more closely with the spirit of the Med Fund. And I'm not going to read all the stuff, it's just Arduino kit components. They're there and they're in the appendix if you want more information. You can also ask questions. And then finally, a 3D resin printer. Again, all the components are on there, are stuff to supplement the printer. The major thing is the printer for $6,000, but the entire pack would be $9,607.
So on to mechatronics. They would like to purchase whiteboard markers, a dynamometer, I think that's how you say it, a magnetic particle brake, and a gas expansion apparatus. This would be for year 2 lab. It is the main purpose
first year project options,
Yeah.
and potentially even into Mod 3.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It would add more creative freedom to the first year projects. They could use that instead of 3D printing, adds a few different routes to take. And then they also want these 3D printer toolkits for adjusting your 3D print jobs, multimeters, soldering iron stations, 3D pens also for their first year projects, desktop power centers for the student lab tables, and then that's everything. Oh. And then also accessories for the installation of the power centers. This is grouped together. You have to purchase them separately, but grouped together into one item. So that'll just be like extension cords, cord protectors, surge protectors, stuff like that. And then also cards for microscopes, and an updated mineral and rock samples for the rocks labs.
Okay, and finally we've got general, so there's some laptops, some interactive displays to be, or I guess it's just one. I think it's going to be in an ILC room, and then whiteboard markers and cleaning spray. So we have down here, I said allotted funds from revenue, $50,000. So actually based on the numbers that I have, the allotted funds is technically $0 because it's $160,000 split by the ratio of discipline size. And the only reason this is a little blurry right now is because we were moving from the start of the year under the impression that we had access to the funds in the 8. So in the past, 8 being the expendable account, sorry. So in the past, how it has worked is whenever the account balance for the general fund dipped below $10,000, it was topped up back to $50,000 and then spent again down until it dipped below 10. With the new changes to Vet Fund, all these proposals are going to the faculty, and then we're kind of getting some approved and some not, and we may have access to some of the funds in the expendable and some not. So I honestly, we don't know exactly how much of the 50,000, or I guess it's only 15 that we actually do have proposed, but how much is going to be approved, but it is getting sent to the faculty regardless. And yeah, that's all we've got. So total revenue, again, that's $160,000, and then the grand total from all these proposals is approximately $250,000. So we can guarantee access, or we can guarantee making purchases of 160. The remaining $90,000 is the question mark whether we will have access to these funds or whether they will be going towards the big Vet Fund proposal that will be upcoming next year. And yeah, that's the entire presentation. So does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, sure. So just as a reminder, we will have a motion to vote on these proposals later. So keep your questions right now to questions about the presentation specifically.
Lucas Baylor, Engineering Center. What laptops are we getting in the general purchase? My concern being that, in my experience, $500 laptops don't last very long.
They're essentially just supposed to be for students who have a broken laptop or something is getting fixed, and it's like a temporary thing, not handing out laptops to students, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sorry, I'm more, are we getting quality, a good brand of laptop, or are we going to be replacing all these in 2 years?
If you want the specifics, I can pull that up right now. So
Okay.
it's
good if my comments are noted.
Yes. Yeah.
Charlie, not Charlie. Grabbing your window? I'm Proxy. Easy? Right.
We have a lot of proxies.
It's not proxy.
Alright. And as a reminder, you have to vote in. Wait, behind your.
Get to the living room.
It's not. It just has the
Senator Baylock, your comments have been noted
Okay.
about the quality of
I will bring that up later. I know that there were no laptops. I don't know this, I don't have the specs memorized, but I know that there were Lenovo laptops. That's what I can say right now.
I know that you said that.
Point of personal leverage.
Director of Government, you said that we're about 90,000 over
are sending essentially the appendix that was attached with this to the dean's office, and then getting them to approve whichever purchases they will approve, and then before purchases actually go through to the department heads, it will be coming back to us. So basically they're gonna make the reviews, and then we're gonna look at those reviews and see whether they're in alignment with actually what we want to go through the purchase. Yeah. Any other questions?
Just wanted to know more about the behind the scenes. Is it going to just random
I don't know what room off the top of my head it's going into. It's supposed to go to one of the study rooms.
just because my only concern it could be the MMR. The MMR is now
It is not going to be going into the MMR. Yes, it's going to be going into one of like the general study rooms. Yep. Any other questions?
All right. Thank you very much for that presentation. We will hear your motion later.
Perfect. Thank you.
Woo! Okay. Yes. Yes. Good?
Yeah.
I was going to move into motion.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
I'd like to motion to open up the agenda because we submitted the motion to vote on the bed fund stuff a little bit late and it didn't make it into this iteration of the agenda. So I would like to motion that we add a motion to vote to approve the bed fund purchases.
I think if you visit the updated appendices folder, it should be there.
Oh, is it? Okay.
It might not have been on there the last time, but
It's an appendix, but it's not a motion in the agenda.
Point of order. Counter Yearby Chair. It is in the appendices version, but not the one that was sent out with the council newsletter.
Oh, okay.
yes.
We're fine then.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
To clarify, if you go to the council agenda that is in the folder with all of the other appendices, if that updated version of the agenda has motion 7.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Never mind then.
I don't know if the one that's on the screen has motion 7, but I have motion 7. If motion 7 is available. Okay, cool. We're gonna move into voting while Chloe makes sure that we have the right one on there. Motions 3, 4, and 5 are rereadings of motions that we've passed before, just so you all know. Cool. We'll start with motion 3. Whereas QHBC would like to be ratified, and whereas they would like to officially be a part of the Engineering Society, be it resolved that Council ratifies Queen's High Performance Computing as seen in Appendix QHBC Club's Constitution. Moved by Remy Allison, seconded by Trax Smith. Is there an opening from either of our movers?
Travis Smith, general member. I just want to say thank you to Remy and everyone else here for helping us get started so far, and excited to get ratified.
Great, thanks for that opening. Is there any debate on motion 3? Seeing none, is there a closing from either of our movers? Alright, cool. Motion 3. Whereas QHBC would like to be ratified, and whereas they would like to officially be a part of the Engineering Society, be it resolved that Council ratifies Queen's High Performance Computing as seen in Appendix QHBC Club Constitution. Moved by Remy Allison, seconded by Trask Smith. Can I see votes for the motion, please? Beautiful. Can I see votes against the motion? Is that a vote? Are there any abstentions? Motion 3 passes. Hooray! Congrats, guys. Okay, cool. Motion 4. Whereas I like Council Pizza way too much, and whereas I am bored and I am hungry, so make me a member, be it resolved that Council approves of the changes to Bylaw 1 as seen in Appendix Advisory Board. Moved by Yaya Dizasmina, get double the pizza Mohammed, seconded by Lily, double the meetings, double the pizza stock. Is there an opening from either of our movers?
Yeah, this is the second reading to add.
First beverage.
Yeah, Mohammed Al-Fazi, board chair. This is the second reading of the bylaw 1 change to add the advisory board chair as an ex-official member of council. It's just the second reading. First time in 2 as council.
And I know we don't have the bylaw on the screen right now, but it is just a change to the list of people who are officially members of council. Motion 4. Whereas I like Council Pizza way too much, and whereas I am bored and I am hungry, so make me a member, be it resolved that Council approves of the changes to Bylaw 1 as seen in Appendix Appendix Advisory Board, moved by Yahya Mohammed, seconded by Lily Stock. Can I see votes for the motion, please? Thank you very much. Can I see votes against the motion? Are there any abstentions? The no motion 4 passes. Hooray! Motion 5. This is also a reading. Whereas the Engineering Review Board is tasked with the maintenance and spirit of the Engineering Society in policy and bylaw, and whereas conditions may arise that require the Engineering Review Board to adjust our governing documents to improve structures for the future, be it resolved that Council approve with discussion the changes to bylaw 3B as seen in appendix. I couldn't possibly have another. Well, moved by Connor, love of an EDSOC spirit Bosie, seconded by Oliver. Are you referring to the ghost or the liquor lid? Is there an opening from either of our movers?
Connor Bose, ERB Chair. I know this was with discussion. We discussed last council. We all sat down and wrote through this bylaw. This is the second reading, so if anybody thinks that any of the writing we made at that time was not the correct decision, now's the time to discuss it. But other than that, we'll get this passed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any debate on the motion? We're happy to bring up the bylaw that we wrote if anyone would like to see it on the screen right now. Chloe's just updating the agenda, making sure that everyone has the correct thing. Is there any debate on motion 5 and this bylaw 3B? Alright, seeing none, is there any closing from our members? Alright. Motion 5. Whereas the Engineering Review Board is tasked with the maintenance and spirit of the Engineering Society in policy and bylaw, and whereas conditions may arise that require the Engineering Review Board to adjust our government by Connor Bose, seconded by Oliver Lynn. Can I see votes for the motion, please? Thank you very much. Can I see votes against the motion? Are there any abstentions? Motion 5 passes. Woohoo! Alright, motion 6. Motion 6. Whereas verbal council reports are often redundant with written reports, and whereas this takes a lot of time and disincentivizes reading the agenda, be it resolved that council approves the first reading of the changes to bylaw as seen in appendix bylaw council report changes. Be it further resolved that council temporarily adopt these changes on a trial basis for the remainder of the year, with further discussion and the second reading to occur at the council meeting of Thursday, March 20th. Moved by Jack Walker, seconded by Mo Kelly. Is there an opening from either of our movers? Yes, go ahead.
Jack, quack, Walker, president. Yeah, so we had a big, long discussion about this at last council. Consensus was that plenty of people saw value to shortening up the reports process, but lots of people also had concerns about ensuring that we kept accountable and kept transparency, which is super fair. And several people said that they would be interested in doing like a trial run of any changes that we made before we made them. Since then, I have talked to a bunch of different people just like outside of council, just kind of one-on-one, about their take on it, and I think we've come up with a decent bylaw change, so I want to basically, yeah, like it says, propose to do our first reading now, try this new policy for our remaining 2 councils of the year, and then make a decision either at the last council of the year or just decide to leave it till next year's team to formally make that decision. If we can pull up the, beautiful, thank you. I just want to run everyone through the changes sort of piece by piece so it's clear what's different. If we can just go sort of track change by track change. First thing I did, this is just clerical, but I put the break in the correct place in the order of council stuff. Because it says normally that we have the break after all of the new business. If you can go up a tiny bit, sorry. So yeah, this section is just outlining everything that happens. As you can see, I've removed all of the director reports and the discipline club and year exec reports from the like presentation or like the speaking portions of council, and then in place of that added a second or like added a statement and questions by members portion after the exec reports, and then you mind zooming in a tiny bit? I just can't quite read. Thank you. And then for reports, have restructured how the report section of the bylaw works. So and now you can see on screen, but the main changes that I made were a note that in addition to everyone who presents a report at council, all of the directors, discipline clubs, and year executive are required to submit reports every week. A note that failure to do so will be handled according to the same policy as failure to attend council, because I know there was some concerns from people about how we actually enforce this. Yeah, notes. A lot of it is the same stuff, just slightly reworded or shuffled around to make a bit more sense for reading. Main changes are the note that everyone needs to submit them, even if they're not presenting. What else? Oh, and then if you go down a little bit to E, just an outline of the reports of the executive. So I've kept the exec reports in as something to be presented verbally. Again, the AMS does it this way, and the executive reports are a bit more comprehensive and include sort of an overview of all of the major stuff in the portfolios under them. So this is just a non-exhaustive list of everything that the executive will be expected to report on at council, again, to ensure that we're not just glossing over stuff or being like, oh, it's all in the report. Including any new initiatives, any major stuff in their directors' portfolios, and then any advocacy works, like if we had a meeting with the dean, for example, talking about main takeaways from that, things like that. And then any sort of deviations from our standard stuff. So like if I took a week off, for example, I would include that in my report. And then I got rid of the bit about the Happy and Sunny group because that would no longer really be a factor. And I believe that was the last of the changes to the report section. And then the other agenda elements section, I've just added a note saying that the two sort of statements and questions periods are also periods where directors or your executives or discipline clubs are free to make any amendments or changes to their reports, and are periods where any other member of council is free to ask someone a question about the content in their written report. So if you've read the agenda in advance and you said, hey, like it looks like ECE Club's running a thing, I want to know more about that, you can ask them about it during these question periods. I believe, is there any more scrolling to do, or I just want to make sure I don't miss anything? Cool. I believe that's the end of that. Happy to take questions because I'm sure there's going to be some.
Just point of information.
Yes.
Sorry, could you scroll down there? It says after the director's reports for the statements period, and there is no director reports part, so it doesn't.
Where is this?
For the statements and questions part, the one down, no, just the scroll down.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Two statements and questions period, one after the director's.
Yeah, can you scroll down a bit more? I think I know what you're talking about, but I just want to confirm. Like to part 3, like A.3 dot whatever the first thing is. Yeah.
The two questions in the statement period, the first following the director reports.
Oh yes, can we change that to say following the executive reports, please? Taking this friendly.
Thank you. We'll now move into debate on the motion. As we've done in the past, if you'd like to be added to the end of my list, feel free to raise your placard. If I give you like a nod or a thumbs up, that means you've been added to my list. Starting with ERG Chair Posey. Go ahead.
Alright. Connor Posey, ERG Chair. I'd like to say that from a policy and bylaw point of view, the ERG is not necessarily against a trial run. I would like to say two things on this specific topic. The first is in reference to point A.2.D, which states that if any reports are not in the hands of members by this time, this report shall not be presented except with the consent of the speaker or 2/3 of the members present and voting. I believe that removing the ability for a report to not be given at all if one is not given in is only hurtful to council, as then there is no accountability for the group at all. You did stipulate that not having a report into council counts as an absence. I don't necessarily believe that you need to have an additional thing on top of that prevents any report from being given, because then moving forward, like if a discipline club had to miss a week, and they just didn't get it in time, then they wouldn't have any opportunity to say anything to council, and then we're just backtracking. The other thing is not so much of a policy specific thing as it is a spirit thing, which is a lot of what NSOC Council is and what makes it NSOC Council and not, a jury law session, is the understanding of the spirits and traditions we continue, such as our breaks, our council candy, leading us out with the engineering hymn, and getting rid of the statements and the reports from the year execs and the discipline clubs will also get rid of all discipline club nicknames and year exec names at all, because they would have no purpose to be used. It's not necessarily a policy thing, but it is something I wanted to bring up to council. Thank you.
Yeah, Jack, quack, Walker, President, Direct Response. Yeah, so with regards to your first comment about the 2/3 thing, that is already a line in policy. It shows up as a track change because I moved it, but it is already included in the policy. With the caveat there that except with the consent of the speaker is a pretty loose thing, right? Like anytime we currently present a report that wasn't submitted online, that's already just Maddie giving us her consent to do that. So in my mind, like, unless the speaker decides, basically, at least to me, how this reads is unless the speaker decides for some reason that a group should not be allowed to give their report, they do. Like, that's already how we operate. It's either the speaker says they can do it, which is kind of the standard around here, or else speaker says no, and then council says in a 2/3 majority that we still want to hear it. So I personally, I feel like keeping this is fine, as it's already how we operate, and it's not really a barrier in practice. With regard to the spirit stuff, basically fair enough. I think that the question needs to be how much time are we willing to commit for the sake of funny council nicknames. Admittedly, I've been going to councils for a while, so maybe I'm a little bit jaded on that front, and if people feel differently about that, like, I am cool. I am in support of this motion, but if council doesn't think it's a good idea and wants to shoot it down, like, or we trial it for two councils and everyone is like, oh, this is really boring and sad, I don't want to do this, like, that's why we have these discussions. So, yeah, fair play on that one.
Your Chair, Connor Mosey, one direct response, just on the topic of A.2.D. A.2.D, the difference in between moving something when there is already a laid out place for a report to happen and having this in there when there is no longer a guarantee this report is going to happen at council makes it very difficult for the speaker to kind of anticipate council incident, anything like that. I think that, again, I understand that it's something that's just been moved along, but I think it was moved without the understanding that once you remove the need to give these reports at council and the expectation that they will be given at council, there's no great spot to fit them. And if we're just saying that, like, oh, the speaker's going to say yes anyway, then I don't see why the second term needs to be in place, especially when it should be a term that instead states if you don't submit it, you are forced to be here at council and give a verbal report. Because otherwise we're losing that report, as I said earlier. So that is the stance in order to keep people accountable at council.
Next person on my list is
Ben Zimmer, DC President. You were here 2 weeks ago. You know my opinion on it. I will not restate that opinion for the sake of time and respect. We did have a conversation between the DSC presidents about this motion. It was pretty split down the middle as to people agreeing, not agreeing, sort of thing. One thing that did come up that I wanted to kind of share to everyone was adopting.
Sorry to interrupt you really quick. Just to let you know, for this council today, I am not chuffed if you don't look at me. I would much rather that everybody hear this than you follow the rules of looking at me. So feel free, especially for sitting near the front, to talk to the room at large.
Continuing, adopting a similar style to how the DSCs work, which like a happy sunny split. Because that way what it would do is it would still accomplish the goals of having a shorter council that the movers would like. However, it would still maintain, one, the face-to-face stuff that I mentioned before, two, the spirit of council that Connor has previously talked about, and three, help keep people accountable and sharing, because everyone who is part of the engineering society, like, we all serve each other, essentially. You serve council, everyone should be able to communicate with each other, and have these conversations. So I think that maybe adopting a way of that every other council thing that the TSCs have for the directors, your execs, that sort of thing, could be something to consider. As well, my personal opinion is that this decision should come from the next PD team, based on the fact that it is a bylaw change. In my understanding is it would have to pass 2 readings anyway, so it would essentially just only come into place at the last council, and I think it might not be doing a good service to the new EC if they don't know how it currently runs, and instead of having to implement a new system, they haven't seen it working before. I know it's a trial period, but I still do think that that decision should come from them, rather than this year's council.
Next on my list is Senator Baylock.
Louis Baylock, Engineering Senator. I'm gonna motion and amend the motion just to specify
The
For the
like the
trial period.
yeah, that's friendly.
The motion.
In the actual motion.
And then am I at the bottom of the queue or is it the top?
There are other people on the list, but it is your turn.
Okay. The other thing I would like to motion and amend is having 2 statement periods. We had an incident in 2022 during the AGM after some decisions were made about the side formal that led to about a 2-hour-long statement period. So I'd like to I think that having statement periods right at the end means that we have our conversation at the very end and we're not having a long conversation about something and then coming back for a few reports and then finally going home.
Point of information, I suppose. Are you looking to get rid of the first statement period and have the last one be after all the reports? Is that your proposed amendment?
My proposed amendment was that we still have the 2 question periods, just the only statement period is the last one.
So just questions by members is IX there? Okay, yeah, friendly.
Next person on my list is me.
Izzy, the director of community services. I just wanted to first one with respect like the new director team making the decision. I think because we're at the end of the year, or like because most of the incoming directors and incoming people in council next year won't have been at council, a lot of them ever. I don't think it really makes sense to leave this decision about how council works or runs to people that haven't been here. I just like, when I started going to council, I didn't know what was happening. I wouldn't have known how to like have an opinion on that decision until a few councils in. And so I think by that point, like pushing it to the new incoming executive and director team and everyone at council next year is pushing it not to the beginning of the school year, but realistically pushing it until like December. By the time people are comfortable enough to like voice their opinions on this decision. So I personally think it should be made by like the group of us sitting here that have been here all year. That's just my thoughts on it.
Next on my list is
The main thing I want to bring up is that, granted this is very internal, so I don't know if we just can't see it, but I'm not sure the enforcement of absences has been happening much, or at least like the proxy rule. And so at that point, I don't think there'd be any enforcement for the reports necessarily, if we're already not doing one of them very much. So maybe either we start doing the absences way more strictly, or there's an additional enforcement for reports, because that seems like a lot easier of a thing to just kind of miss in time by the deadline and go, oops, sorry, and have it just not be a big deal, quote unquote, but I think it should be. My other point is that I think I would like to see a mandate of length and or comprehensiveness of the reports, because otherwise I worry it's just going to slip back to what it is right now, where it's dot points and people say that's good enough, because there's not a set outline for what it should look like.
you guys saw the response.
Yeah, direct response. Jack Walker, President. Direct response. Yeah, I think the understanding with this is that the council absences and missed reports would be enforced more heavily. Like, I don't know if that has to be a policy change, because I don't think we should have to have policy saying that we enforce policy. Like, I think that just needs to be an understanding amongst council and the ED team that that's going to be enforced, but that is definitely the understanding with this motion. Our team has talked about that. With regard to the mandate of length, I believe there is a note on that with regard to the exec reports about length. Like for the council presentations, I believe it says they're 5 minutes, of like no longer than 5 minutes. With regard to the written reports, I think mandates with comprehensiveness potentially doable. Mandates of length, I don't know, just because there is a huge variance in how much stuff a given director will do every 2 weeks. So if we're saying like, oh, like it has to be a page, like some weeks you just don't have a page of stuff to write about. Again, I would suggest that for the trial run, we don't have any mandates specifically about length of report or like detail of report. Try it for a couple councils, and then if we look at the reports and feel that they're insufficient or there's stuff that's not being reflected, then we make that change in a second reading.
Weapons technology does not specify anything.
Oh, okay. I meant to include that.
Alright, next person on my list is Megan Hafer.
That like length of example reports.
I just have a quick question about who you talked to, because you started off this your opening saying that you talked to a lot of different people about what you were going to do, but as the UCE rep, I don't know if any other discipline clubs explained you had been talked to about this, because this directly affects discipline clubs, and I know we were not talked to about this decision, and given the fact that this is a tradition, as Connor said, with all the names and everything, like what UC clubs were, or sorry, not UC clubs were talked to about this, and I just want to know who got this information.
Jack Walker, direct response. Jack quack Walker, direct response. Sorry, when I say I spoke to a bunch of people, I more meant I spoke to ERB senators about the sort of policy legitness of this. Not so much the content of it, because again, that's kind of why we have discussions at council, is to talk about the content of the motion. More so, I consulted with Connor and Lucas, and I don't know if I got in touch with Jenny or not, because midterm season, about our ability to do a trial run of policy, and B, generally, like, whether this was something that was feasible. Like, I know I spoke with you guys in advance.
Connor Mosey, ERB chair. Yes, I wanted to just, I didn't advise on the way to move forward in terms of doing that trial run, and I want to just talk for a second about what the Constitution says about the trial run with reference to our bylaw change. Seeing as the trial run is tied to a change in bylaw, it does technically need a second reading as per, what is this? This is Article, oh my Roman numerals. Article 8.6 of our Constitution under bylaws. It does refer to the proposal needing to take effect immediately after the second reading. My recommendation is that, again, I don't necessarily want to stop us from trying this, but I think maybe what we have to do is take the structure of how the bylaw is put out, say, amend this motion to, instead of making a bylaw change, which we really couldn't put into place today, we needed second reading on AGM, make it an understanding that we're doing a trial run until the end of the year, so it's more of a procedural council thing than it is a actual bylaw change, and at that point then we can take what we've learned from that and make a recommendation to next year's exam.
There are further people on this list, so I'll continue to take my notes. Next on my list is
Izzy Kim, and who's president. I have a couple of things. The first is that like discipline clubs obviously talk every 2 councils, so I'm just wondering like why we're submitting every council now, or if it's just that we talk every 2 councils for time. Maybe you want to answer that and then.
Yeah, that pretty much is why we have alternating discipline club reports. This is kind of meant to be in line with the fact that DSCs still attend every council, so you still want to have a presence every council. Yeah.
And then the other thing was to kind of speak to what Bennett was saying. So I am definitely for shortening council as someone who's very busy. And I think that a shorter council will allow people to pay more attention for a shorter amount of time, as opposed to like towards the end, especially throughout director reports, people aren't paying attention as much. And I had suggested alternating because the BSC clubs alternate, but to speak to that, that's not to say that directors or et cetera would give like a full oral report every time, but instead like a quick update basically on what like your dynamics are. Like we had a conversation last night about statics versus dynamics, and I think that like the DS, like when I give my NGIS update, it's really just like the main points of like these are the events we ran, and that's kind of it. I'm not telling you about my day-to-day or kind of like even my week-to-week, and I think that that would be a bit helpful. And also then as someone who isn't from NSHOP, did not know anything about NSHOP coming in, and I'm in 5th year, so for the last 4 years I've been very uninvolved in this like society. I think that NSHOP is like a cliquey or like hard thing to kind of come in, and then there's lots of different traditions with it that you don't know, etc. So I do think that like putting something where directors talk and maybe discipline clubs also talk at the first council would be good to kind of introduce you to everyone. just because otherwise, like, I wouldn't really know necessarily, like, who director of finance is despite having to deal with them as a discipline club. That's just an idea to kind of make council maybe a bit more of a friendly place as opposed to, like, you just talk, you see the yellow cards, but you don't really know who's attached to them.
Next person on my list is Remy.
Remy Allison, Director of Clubs and Conferences. This is, I think Monica said it at the last council, but regarding the, like, set amount of stuff we should write, if the issue is that you guys do want to know what we're doing every week, like, even, like, speaking on the static versus dynamic. I don't know for a lot of you guys, but for me, like, my portfolio is not super dynamic till January. Like, we got nothing going on. Like, I could tell you, like, pretty much it's all in the report every single council because all I have is statics until January hits. So if that's something you want, I could provide you with a set report of, like, what I do in general. This is my job. This is what I've decided my role's kind of going to look like, and then have that extra, like, dynamic part when needed. But, like, I feel like for a lot of us, like, especially like finance or like comms, like, we don't really get up to a whole lot of crazy stuff that seems that relevant to council, other than those few events that we have. Like, it's not like a discipline club where we're running a ton of stuff. Like, we don't really do that. So we could give you that, like, set, this is what's going on, and then if you have questions, ask us in the questions period. But other than that, like, I just don't really know what else you guys can, like, want from us in general, because there isn't really a lot else I think we could provide on top of what we already are giving. But that's just my opinion.
Next on my list is Ben.
Ben Emery, EC President. Thank you for the discussion on my earlier points. One thing, my understanding of the discussion 2 weeks ago was that it was director reports, and this motion includes year and fiscal reports. Now that that does, I'm going to come back and say that I strongly do not agree with the motion of getting rid of the discipline and year reports for the sole purpose of, if you are a year exec or a discipline and you submit a report, and then you come to council and you don't get to just sit there and vote, and, like, not everyone here will talk, participate. So, like, people will not want to come that aren't, like, you'll lose a lot of your voting members, and it will be all proxies like today. And when it comes to the traditions as well, going back onto that, like, that's what kind of makes council interesting, instead of just like a sort of governmental process that has to happen. If you get rid of all of the traditions that we have, you know, people like Queen's Engineering because of the traditions, like, then there's no appeal, and then you won't get as much, like, the Engineering Society, I can say from a DSE, is struggling to get engagement from the DSEs already. So taking out a way that we can engage with the Engineering Society is not going to be good. And we're lucky this year to have a lot of Microsoft reps and presidents, vice presidents that are willing to come and participate. But that's not always the case. And I know there's been years when people try to reiterate that, but I just want to state that as a DSC president, that getting rid of that is a very big thing.
Next on my list is Paper.
Sorry to be talking so much, but I really like what Remy said. And I was the director however many years ago now, because I'm just turned 23, guys, and I'm old. But it was like 2 years, IP, I was IP like 3 years ago. So IP, there's not a lot of things going on, especially at the beginning, until, like, banquet happens, right? So, like, I know what it's like to stand up and say the same thing over and over again. And it's just like, oh, planning for banquet, planning for banquet. So I do understand why it's important to, you know, only say the things that are happening that are relevant, like, oh, this is the date for something that's happening. And I think that it's important to have directors say those things and not have to say all the mundane things that they do every day, because it's going to say the thing, and just have that in the report. But I think, as Remy mentioned, like, groups like DSCs and Gear Exec, they are a lot more dynamic and they have a lot more things going on, so I think it makes sense to maybe cut out the directors having to talk, but I think that the DSC and Gear Exec should talk because they have a lot of stuff and events going on that they need their voices heard, so that people really go to those events. And I also think that if you look into this bylaw, it says, are we planning on putting these reports inside the actual agenda? And then if we are, we still need to have that whole list of, to go down, like those need to stay in there. If we're just gonna add written reports underneath each of those sections still need to be there. If the reports are gonna be in the agenda, we can't just delete the section. Are they not gonna be in the agenda anymore? And that's what I was thinking about too. So I think it'd be beneficial to keep them in the agenda, have them in long reports, and then let directors speak on something important in their report during council, and if they don't have something important in the report, we just move on. That would save a lot of time and still let people be able to say the important things that are happening. A lot of directors do a lot of events, and that's important to say. That's just kind of what I think, and I also think that this one, club report should stay in there as something that's said as well as your exec. Because, you know, faculty board and the AMS reports, they're all still in there, so I don't know why we should not also be in there. So that was
Next on my list is Bernard.
So around what Bennett said and Izzy said, as someone who's been on air on council since my first year or fourth year exec, first year and second year, I've got to preface that with incoming as first years of no idea how council works, how anything here works, how ENSOC works, the data reports, in that matter, any reports for ourselves, first exposure to how ENSOC works. It's where we learned the little things that are not any previous ENSOC exposure to come into it. These reports are built to understand how the functions of ENSOC work, develop the exposure to how everything integrates. So that is, regardless, a key part of it. And I kind of more so sympathize with what Bennett said in terms of having it bi-weekly rather than continuously, since yes, it can get feeling exhausting at times, and especially as first years, when you hear people keep saying it's in a report, it feels like it's affects the morale overall. Perhaps having it bi-weekly but consistent will definitely affect it. And more so in terms of the tradition we do here in ENSOC as it's for the year exams or the disciplines, as first year exec, when I came into the whole year exec, I only felt more intrigued to participate and get involved because this felt unique, this felt very much into our culture, and I feel like anyone who's outside and starts coming into it, it's a key aspect that shows how things are run, the essence of what ENSOC is, the ENSOC spirit itself. That's what I have to say.
Is that a response, sir?
No, just Q.
Next on my list is
Barbara Wafe, MN10. I have a few things to say. As someone who's been both a director and an engineering society representative for discipline clubs, I think where I'll start is just with the phrasing, like in the motion. Council reports are often rendered as did Chem rep last year. This was my only opportunity to kind of engage with your executives, with the director team, with the other representatives here, and often they didn't know what was going on with the Chem Discipline Club. And if I hadn't stood up and given my verbal report, they wouldn't have known. So I don't quite understand the redundancy aspect to that because it was my first time giving the report for Chem. An additional point being that is for the DSC side of things. When I was listening to other discipline clubs giving their reports bi-weekly to Sunny and Happy Group, I was able to kind of make notes for my own discipline club and see, okay, EC has started their banquet planning. I'm going to go talk to their president. I'm going to go talk to their NSOC rep, and I know who they are and I'll be able to go up to them right afterwards. On the other side, as a director, when I gave my reports, I made an emphasis to make sure I noted key dates, key reminders, important things coming up when my team is getting really busy and booked for media requests. And I had people who came up to me after council to talk to me about the things I said. So it's very clear that that was impactful. And I really did like the idea from, I think it was President for Enchies. I like the idea of if you want to shorten council, alternating the weeks that similar to how the discipline clubs do it, split the directors in half and do an alternation. But I do think there is a lot of value to standing up, giving an oral report, having that student engagement, being forward facing. And when you put everything into a written format, it becomes very static and you will lose a lot of that communication.
next on my list is
ARB Chair. I want to speak for a second about the cliqueness and the accessibility of NSHOP that I've heard discussion from both Site 7A Rep. Pelpendi and NSHOP's president. Blank on your last name, I'm so sorry. Kim? Okay. I want to talk about that for a second because I think part of my job here as ERB Chair is to go through our policy and bylaws and make sure that what we're doing follows the spirit and indeed what is written in all of our governing documents. I think that the major thing that I have concern with is the understanding that when somebody walks into council, they have a, like with verbal reports or even if it's just an agenda, they have a way to find out what's going on, right? If they want to find out, they can. My worry is that by making things more of entirely written and maybe not as presented as easily, people don't always know that the council agenda and appendices have to go up 48 hours in advance of council, as per bylaw section 2.A.4.B. But my other worry is that we've had issues this year with the website going down, and that means that things have not been made up present before council. So people that are by and large and wants to know what's going on with the engineering society have no way to do that. And the worry is that people want to try to engage with the engineering society and are stopped by doing so by a manner of not being able to not being able to come into the room and understand what's going on. Are there things we can change to improve that? 110%. But I don't think that necessarily removing all the verbal aspects of the reports is it. I do like a lot of the discussion I've heard about going alternating between weeks. I think it's good. And I do want to just bring back up my point about the Constitution and what it says for bylaw changes as it applies to this motion, because I really do think we need to amend the motion as it is to be a procedural acting for the rest of the semester as opposed to a bylaw change.
Next on my list is Sam President. One quick note that I wanted to make is that as someone who speaks every other week, we're literally only one person in this room who is an Apple other than myself. And as a preview of what I'm going to say, everything is on our Instagram already. So I find that anything that I would mention here, I'm wasting everyone else's time except for the only one other person who's an Apple here, as well, all of our information is on our Instagram. There's nothing that I would say that's exciting that isn't already advertised, and we put a lot of effort into advertising it. So that would be my only point. And I know that that's not the case for all disciplines, but that's the case for me. And same, I like the idea though of the dynamic reports. Like as a director who did actually the same thing every week, I think that the updates on dynamic things would be very helpful. But also then as director of finance, I probably wouldn't do it for months other than waiting a year because something changes. But I think it could save a lot of time.
I saw a point there. Would you like to get into my list, or do you have to think of it?
One other last one. Probably party service in the minister. I just want to mention that it's one, yes, it's also the transparency and letting people know what's happening. But at the same time, the reason, one other factor I see when we speak of the council is that it opens to the point of collaboration. There are other people who are not in the discipline who doesn't necessarily have to follow Instagram to know what's happening. They can realize what's happening. Perhaps you're doing something that they can collaborate with, where you're taking an initiative where other disciplines or other, let's say another director could possibly contribute. And I suppose that opens up a space for collaboration. And I find that to be lacking if we go ahead and cut the verbal speeches out. These discussions, more than transparency, especially in this council, the most valuable asset it is an opening for a new collaboration and more efficiency toward all our progress.
Thank you for that response. Next on my list is President Walker.
Yeah, Jack Quack Walker, President. I'm going to respond to like a million different comments that people have had, and then I'm going to make an amendment to my own motion. With regard to the allowability of doing a trial run and also doing this as a first reading, those are two separate things. In our bylaw, it does say that the second reading does not have to be immediately follow the first reading. So the idea here is that the trial run is one thing, the first reading is a separate thing. If we would like to split that off into a separate motion, we can do that, but those are both things that can be done. With regard to the bit about council engagement, I love when council is fun and we have silly traditions and stuff, but to be very clear, council is a governmental process that has to happen. Like, we are not lucky to have discipline club participation and your exec participation and director participation. Like, that is part of your job as one of those roles. So I just want to be very clear that while I do appreciate like wanting everything to be fun and engaging, it is a requirement of the job, just like having your statics or filling in actuals or doing a budget. And I don't want, I just don't want the message to get confused with people thinking that attending council is like something you're doing as a favor. Attending council is part of the job. With regard to the concern about, I think a lot of the concerns about sort of how well are people going to know what's going on at council, with regard to discipline clubs and directors, it seems like people are more okay with the idea of written director reports and more unsure about the idea of written discipline club reports, maybe just because we don't currently do those written and it's just a bigger change. I'm going to friendly amend my own motion to only have the director reports be the ones that are now written, and then I'm going to move to call the question, because this discussion has been like the same concerns being bounced off of each other repeatedly, and I don't think it's going anywhere new.
So President Walker just...
And your executives as well, please. Yeah.
All right.
So
President Walker
I would like to motion to call the question.
Amazing. Is there a seconder for this motion? Thank you very much. This is a procedural motion, so there will be no opening, no debate, no closing. We'll go straight to voting on it. We're going to vote to table the question, not table the question, to propose the question. That's the wording of it. So if this procedural motion passes, we'll move straight into voting on motion 6. We won't do any further debate on this motion. Can I see votes for the motion to pose the question on motion 6, please? Thank you. Can I see votes against the motion? Are there any abstentions? From right to left, would you like that noted in the minutes? No? 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 Yes for Barbara? Yes for Pranav? No. All right. Thank you very much. We will now move directly on to voting for motion 6. Motion 6. Whereas verbal council reports are often redundant with written reports, and whereas this takes a lot of time and disincentivizes reading the agenda, be resolved that council approve the first reading of changes to bylaw as seen in appendix bylaw council report changes. Be it further resolved that council temporarily adopt these changes on a trial basis for the remainder of the year, with further discussion and the second reading to occur at the council meeting of Thursday, March 20th. Moved by Jack Walker, seconded by Mo Kelly. Can I see votes for the motion, please? Can I see votes against the motion, please? Once again, from right to left, would you like that noted in the minutes? No. Yes from Bennett. Yes from Maggie. Yes from Andrew. Yes from Barbara. Yes from Pranav. No. Are there any abstentions on motion 6? Would you like that noted in the minutes? All right, motion 6 passes. We'll now move on to our last motion, which, as you may recall from hours and hours and ages ago, is about the bed fund. Motion 7. Whereas we have bed fund proposals, and whereas we need to approve them, be it resolved that council approve the 2024-2025 bed fund purchases as seen in appendix bed fund Mayo. Moved by Monica D. seconded by Paige Nuts Ellis. Is there an opening to either of our movers? No? All right. Seeing none, is there any debate on motion 7? Absolutely.
Sorry, so if there's some like this is actually on the motion. I would just like to request that these notes be removed from the agenda because we do have data from manual debate day that I feel like is actually supposed to be on that. Just wanted to put that out there. Take everything from the agenda.
Well, if there's a seconder, point of order, seconder, and then it goes to the movers to decide if it's friendly.
Is that friendly? Are you guys okay to remove these notes from the agenda?
I'm sorry to say that, but it feels appropriate. I'm sorry.
Don't.
All right.
Don't.
Next amendment is
it should be bought by the faculty, and the faculty is basically, it just, yeah, seems sometimes the faculty tries to make people buy stuff with this money for specific classes, so they don't have to pay money to do it themselves. Was what I was trying to get at, and I just wanted to see what's happening there.
So, one side director of academics. So this is something that students purchase themselves if the faculty, well, the faculty doesn't pay for it essentially. So if we end up going through with purchasing them, then we are still, it is still in the spirit of the bed fund because it's kind of something like that you can relate to is maybe like the 221 elect lab kits, like where ECE students have to buy those regardless. They are used for class, but if they are not given through bed fund, the students still have to pay for it, which is why we are exploring the option of doing it in like a bursary-like form to make sure that we have like a more futuristic impact for the students rather than just 1 year in all out.
Next on my list is Pablo Silva.
Yeah, Pablo Silva Trump Press. So the history behind the purchase is we had meetings with faculty about it, and they're buying the first, like they're buying, where they want to redo one of our courses labs. So they're buying the components necessary, we're just buying something to make the lab even better. So that's the story behind that.
Thank you very much. Next on my list is ERP chair.
Okay, Connor Bosey, ERP chair. Couple things. First one, item 7.1, laptops check out in the ILC lockers. Question for the head board about who is overseeing that checkout.
One side of the direct response. So that's going to be overseen or purchased by CalStrike. In terms of how it's going to be overseen, we're still working out logistics. Currently, we are looking at storing them in some of the lockers in the ILC and figuring out the sign-up system with Smith IT. There is no 100% anything confirmed yet on the formal process of that. Part of the reason being that there's a chance that this might be something that doesn't go through in the $160,000, so there's been communication on it, but nothing 100% guaranteed. But the purpose of them, like I stated earlier, is just for students to be able to sign them out temporarily when they don't have access to a laptop because there's COVID or something like that. So it's supposed to be something that is there for term or something like that. So I'm also say something about a question I was asked during the presentation. Yeah. So just about the quality of the laptops, I pulled up the exact link of the laptop here. It is nothing fancy, but it is nothing poor either. The purpose, again, of it is just, it's supposed to be something to hold you out a few days, a couple weeks, something like that. So yes, they are not super fancy laptops, but we're not really getting fancy laptops for students use them for 2 weeks and then kind of like for their purpose. It doesn't make sense for us to spend a crazy amount of money on these laptops.
Follow up. Okay, so that does answer that question. I would advise and just question as to if that could possibly be a collaboration with the icons, just for student access, because the faculty historically does not make it easy to access things. The next question I have is about the Chem purchase. New reaction kinetics / like lab equipment. My concern about that is simply historically chemical engineering lab equipment tends to get locked away behind one specific lab that one specific section of the chemical engineering course students take. I understand that it seems to be for a new reaction kinetics lab, which is super exciting. But my general worry about that is that it not only needs to get added to a course that then, like again, not everyone takes, and is like you only have access to it then, and then you spin a roulette wheel to see which lab you get to do. My worry is that it also might end up in the graduate lab instead, and I also see that because of the fact that it's so far above the total that ChemEng had available, my understanding is the faculty is subsidizing part of that. So my worry overall with that purchase is that the ChemEng department is going to end up taking that for themselves and then actually not following the spirit of the bed fund by allowing students to access it. It's not necessarily something that I expect you to have an answer to. It's just a concern I wanted to voice.
Sure. I just to the point you made about icons. So the reason why we are looking with somebody in the faculty to deal with the sign-up system for this is that essentially icons and anyone on EDT, we have no way of holding students liable if they damage the laptops, if they don't return them or anything like that. So a sort of like pick up system, like return it, could be sorted out with icons, but like something formal for liability seems like it has to be going through the faculty if we actually want to make sure, like it's kind of like how in the library, if you don't return something you signed out on time, it goes charged automatically to your solus. So that is the reason why we are trying to find something in between working with the faculty and something through EDT or EdgeSoc itself. Like, yeah, that's the best answer I have for that. Like, is why we were talking with faculty for Chem. It's specifically for Chi 315 is the class that it is for. I'm not in Chem, so I don't have a crazy amount of detail that I can give you. If somebody's in Chem and taking it's Charlie here. If you want to like back me up on the labs in that class for why it would be beneficial to bring them back. My understanding from Charlie is when I spoke about this, because I wasn't too sure, is that it used to be mandatory in labs and then the faculty just wouldn't replace it and change the labs themselves rather than fixing the equipment, and now the equipment is not usable.
The point of order, I try and go back to mention this, it wasn't mandatory, but it was in the lab cycle. So there are 5 or 6 possible labs you can take, and I think you can do 4 of those. We don't take it anymore because the React Kinetics, I guess, machine isn't functional. So we have fewer labs to select from. That's why we don't use it anymore. But it was like this lab was once underway because I've seen the Chi 315 reaction kinetics, apparatus in the lab as well.
Thank you very much. There was a couple of placards that followed up at the same time. I think I saw
Oh, I was just going to, sorry, Barbara McLaughlin, from MPP. Just to reiterate on Connor's point and with the 315, 315 is like a smaller class, so like Charlie said, like you get randomly assigned to about 4 labs throughout the semester. So it's very like possible that, yeah, maybe like 4 to 5, like kind of very small groups will actually get to use this each year, and then for the remainder time that it's living in the lab, it's going to be used by grad students. So I would also be interested to know whether or not like the faculty will respect that this is purchased with some debt fund contribution and should be prioritized for undergrad usages, especially because like a lot of those devices that we use in our 315 labs outside of the reaction kinetics one are like the same systems used for the PhD and master's students research labs right now, and we just use them for 3-hour slots once a month type thing. My other point that I wanted to know, and this is just more of something that a recommendation for your team to look into, going back to like the laptops purchasing. I'd just be interested in seeing as like this is a potential that you could purchase depending on funding allocation. I would recommend just checking that Queen's no longer offers their system through the ITS program for students. Okay, perfect. Great. And make sure that the AMS doesn't extend that to students as well, because the AMS does also have a rental agreement that you can do for if you need a device. And just seeing that. I understand this would make increased availability for like engineering students specifically, but it would just be important to check those avenues to make sure this is the most effective use of the device.
Thank you very much. Is there further debate on motion 7? Seeing none, is there a closing from either of our movers? Alright. Motion 7. Whereas we have bed fund proposals and whereas we need to approve them, be it resolved that council approve the 2024-2025 bed fund purchases as seen in appendix bed fund mail. Moved by Monica Saad, seconded by Paige Ellis. Can I see votes for the motion, please? Thank you very much. Can I see votes against the motion? Are there any abstentions? Motion 7 passes. Hooray! Now is when we can choose to take a break, and I think we should. Wonderful. All right, we're going to take a 7-minute break because that leads us to
Jack Walker, Quack Walker, president. Last 2 weeks, mostly standard stuff, reviewed the bed fund submissions, Jordan transition stuff, assembly. Had a meeting with the CEAB accreditors. It was really short. It was fine. It was productive, but it was very short. They primarily asked us about like safety stuff. Like it was pretty uneventful. It's like eventful in how uneventful it was. And then working with the faculty to find funding for CEC, which we were successful in. We secured quite a lot of additional funding for our delegates. Over the next 2 weeks, taking a break, writing my transition manual, writing up a proper long-term strategy plan based on our LRPM that we had, and then starting to work on some revised policy with some of my directors, like after the break, with Monica and Ethan at least. Kelly, VPSA. Primarily all in the report, but we've, static meetings, transitioning Alexis, meeting with our new SVPR lead, who we've just gotten hired recently, lounge cleaning, the 4 exec all hired the new SciFormal convener, FIPCO mug painting event, Black History Month event, and AMS Assembly and Fact Board. And then over the next 2 weeks, meetings and statics, basically just helping directors with miscellaneous stuff as it comes up, transition. Mo's on the awards ad hoc committee for the AMS, so she's going to be doing that, and then reading week break.
You didn't hit us with an in-minion voice, but polite.
Correct.
I didn't make it. Jesus. Avery Patton, Vice President of Finance Administration. Website's back up and working now. Shout out Mahir. He's not here. He has a midterm to study for. So, anyways, shout out Mahir. Continue banking planning with Ian. Got a lower. Also Ian. Typical BB stuff with Adam. Fix Wi-Fi at Clark, so they'll stop losing connection when it's full. Yeah. Good CAB chat, as Jack mentioned. And Lounge is like super duper clean now, so that's fun. Oh, other important thing, Jay's credit card was set to expire, so it's expired now, so he has a new credit card. That being said, anything that's reoccurring monthly for the last 5 years was on his credit card. So, if that goes for any of you or your peoples, please come meet with Jay, because it's probably expired now. Stuff for the next 2 weeks. Yep. Basically, everything is normal. Stuff to read. Oh yeah, website back up. Also tell your peoples. And yeah, I'd like to move stuff back to the website. I know people were trying to hesitant on that. It's back up and fully fixed this time, so it should be good for the rest of the year. And then yeah, Jay's credit card. Anyways, that's it. Cheers.
last week, and going through the feedback form. We'll probably send an email sometime, either over reading break or early week 7 for our winners of the Tea Room gift cards, and actually like going in depth through all the feedback that we got and responding to it. Well, I've been responsible with that one, so probably that will also happen over the week. Crypto, same thing, continuing drafting posts for past bad fund purchases, and then getting those on or back on Instagram. For next week's, so sending the purchase list to the dean's office for revisions. DSC is the same thing. Academic feedback, I think you already said that. Just update on the input that we've gotten, and the same thing for crypto. And I finally got it over, so transition turn. That's it. Thank you.
Remy Allison, Director of Clubs and Conferences. Things I've been doing over the past 2 weeks, transitioning to new QEC co-chairs, so those director applications will be up soon. Hiring CERT co-chairs, and reopening CERT hiring for co-chairs. If you know anyone who wants to apply, let me know, or go on Breezy. Quest and QSC were held last weekend, so double last. Application for co-chairs are now open as well and due tomorrow night. So also please plug that to anyone you think would be interested. The club and some of the club and conference heads met with the accreditation board. It was pretty chill. It was like, I don't know, 20 minutes. And then things I'll be doing over the next 2 weeks. Can you just scroll? Because I don't remember what I put. Quest and QVC, yeah, those co-chair interviews will happen. My transition manual will be done, and then transitioning with the incoming co-chairs and my lower.
Noah Dashwood, Director of Communications. What I've been doing over the past 2 weeks, the marketing team rolled out a little discipline campaign on our stories that you've seen for the first years. Just routine stuff, statics, all in emails, all that good stuff. Working a lot on my transition manual, taking a small break. And then over the next few weeks, finishing up the transition materials. I have to update our archives. I'm going to be making a title change to the graphic design manager position. That's another Adobe licensing audit, so if you use our Adobe licenses, make sure you look for that. And start transitioning my lower.
Tanner Warren, Director of Design. Video series, getting that set up with comms team. That'll hopefully go on the Instagram. There's an award ceremony that's in the works. There's a dodgeball tournament for design teams in the works. I met with the CAB people along with a few captains. That was also brief, but it felt fine. It was mostly talking about safety among teams as well as, oh god, what even was it? Like what faculty is involved with for design teams. Gonna start transitioning my lower, implement a booking system, so hopefully it doesn't stay a mess. Something that's not in the report, because it happened 2 days ago, was the design bay was closed. What ended up happening was there was evidence of alcohol consumption in the bay that was found by faculty just before the CEAB people went into the design bay. So we got really lucky that they didn't find it. Otherwise, things could have gotten a lot worse. The faculty shut down the bay for a day, or for 2 days. All the teams panicked. Things have been settled now. We're going to be making some, I'll say, security improvements to it. They're going to probably put in some cameras. But yeah, that was a fun 2 days when I had 2 midterms. And it'll open back up tomorrow. And I have no meme, but Avery and I had a cute little date.
I look forced to be there.
Charlie Angel, Director of Education Services. Past 2 weeks, normal meetings with everyone. Icons running smoothly as always. Science Quest, getting ready to hire 16 weekers. Did some budget review with Emery, the head manager, and Lily. EngLinks, talked about trying to get higher workshop attendance for first years. We made the APSC 112 workshop free this past weekend, which seemed to work pretty well. Got positive and negative feedback. But yeah, that's that. And then next little while, same old meetings, run our transition manual, possibly move to lower. Well, actually, we'll move to lower. And then, yeah, get ready to open service manager applications on briefing.
Sasha Gini, Director of Advocacy. Primarily all in the report. Biggest event recently was the Black History Month event on Sunday.
She was really proud of it.
Ethan Powell, Director of Externals. Biggest thing recently has been figuring out CEC funding. For more detail on this, the Engineering Society had approximately $3 grand all told allocated to CEC funding, or 2,700 something in there. Faculty had originally committed 1,400. We kept communicating with them, explained to them that delegates are still probably needing to pay $200 out of pocket to attend, sort of even that including their OEC winnings. And faculty chipped in another $2,000, so we're pretty close to being able to send our delegates cost-free if you include their OEC winnings. I'm not sure exactly how the numbers work out, but we're in a pretty good spot for that. Other than that, he attended Kale, and Outreach ran like a high school engineering competition last weekend, which was nice. In future, or last week, future transition, lower transition manuals, and standard stuff.
Adam McKinley, Director of Finance. Happy Valentine's Day. Over the past couple weeks, pretty much just like normal operational stuff, processing reimbursements, deposits. January month end, good going at those, and just a bunch of emails. Over the next couple weeks, just keeping up with operations and transitioning lower. And I put those improvements project that we received out from today. It's looking pretty good. Some final bugs in the code workout. And yeah, so I also learned today that one of my FOs is working on kind of like what I consistent for reimbursements, so that you get like submit a reimbursement request here tonight. Drafter, so you can just kind of give that task if you any questions about it, and it makes it a lot easier for us to find it as opposed to being not able to dig through everything and just go that on. So yeah, just making things like faster and better. And then also any reimbursements that were submitted last Thursday or earlier will be people after and pick up for tomorrow early meeting. Anything after last Thursday or later will be available after Sunday.
Sophia Rudy, Director of First Year. So over the past week, I've just continued to have regular meetings with my team. Last Thursday, we had a fun mug painting night for Fifth Coast, actually in this room, so if you see paint on the tables, you don't. Semi-formal planning, just some ongoing prep that's going to be happening at the end of March. I'm going to be sending out a volunteer Excel sheet soon, just to have some more hands-on. I mean, we already have some on, just extra volunteers, so it's good. Business Cookies handout, which you all enjoyed today. There's still some extra ones if you guys want to eat a little bit more. Hopefully getting to put the final touches on an international student event that's happening in a few weeks. Trying to sort out a dodgeball event that's going to be happening in March. And then over the next 2 weeks, just continue some semi-formal stuff, transitioning my lower, she's such a cutie, and then having some faculty meetings with a few things for the next round of pressures. That's all.
What?
Can you read that?
Yes.
Really Could you read it for all of us?
That was what I
No,
took
you
the
didn't.
photo. Awkward.
Going to Classic Director of Governance, I did do nothing for it because January's a lot for governance. But I have a lower, I wrote my church manual, / changed a few of the words because I received like a amazing transition manual, so I read it through again and I was like, wow, I wish I did all this stuff so good. So setting awards, that's my big announcement. So awards are open. I've been really trying to get them. Like I was able to update the page finally, but the button to the form will not work. So I sent it off to get put in the link in the Instagram bio, and I'm gonna email it out to like all of the years. Okay, I'm gonna email it all out, but it's open. Please consider nominating someone for an award. There's usually a lack of nominations, and it's too bad because there's a lot of people that really deserve awards. So it's gonna be due in 2 weeks. It's gonna be due on February 27th. So think about it over the break. After the break is when I'm gonna really do a marketing push because people tend to do things close to deadlines anyway. And you'll see a lot of information about it. So if you see something and you resonate with it and you're like, oh my god, I know someone who really did this, or like even almost did that, it's better to nominate someone and then not get it than like, oh, you're not sure and then no one gets nominated for an award. Yes, and also one representative of every district club and one representative of every year will be attending elections committee. It's on March 2nd. That's Sunday, but not right Liberty weekend, but that weekend after. Starts at noon. It'll be in the MMR downstairs. Last year it was about the full 6 hours. I think it went over by half an hour. It was 6.5 hours. So I'll be running that with my lower. Maybe I'll ring the gavel. He's going, but it'll be fun. There'll be food. Someone must be there so start talking amongst yourselves about who's going to represent. Like one per year, one per discipline. You will all be there. I will send out a council email if the council member wants to. Think about it though. You all will be there. That's serious, but I've been in an angry mood recently, so.
It's your key director of human resources. Things I've been doing over the past 2 weeks. Desperately trying to disable the Breezy LinkedIn configuration so that external people stop applying to all our Breezy postings, but both softwares are apparently really hard to use, and I can't disable it yet. Getting ready for the hiring fair, which will be the week after reading week, so get excited. You'll see that soon. Prepping in-person hiring training for new directors, writing my transition manual, and meeting with my lover. And then the usual Breezy posting, Breezy distribution, things coming up. Pretty much what I just said, what I'm planning for. Do you mind scrolling down a bit? Sorry, I forgot what I wrote. Yeah, hiring fair. Hope to see you guys all there for Wednesday, February 26th. Disabling the Breezy LinkedIn integration successfully. And I don't know what else I and writing and giving my transition manual to my lover. That's probably it. But
There's
it's
a
not
really funny meme that you guys can't see.
I'll give my here's. I just want to wait for the meme. I wanted to get its full credit. Okay, I'm here, Gandhi, Information Technology, or Director of Information Technology. So over the past 2 weeks, he's been working primarily on the website issues. It's all fixed now. In the next 2 weeks, he's going to be working on transferring over all of the IT subscriptions on Jason credit card. So Hopefully, if we have access to any of the systems, we will be switching them over. But once again, like, if we don't have admin access to accounts or stuff that you guys do, like, just let us know and we can switch them over. That's all. Ian Schaefer, Director of Internal Processes. What he's been working on, hiring new directors. It's not a do a thing, Ian. Transition to FA, banquet planning. Oh yeah, and he fixed the launch computer, so that works again for music and stuff. Yay. Transition manual, more banquet planning, lowers with a bunch of S's. And then take a little break for reading week. And that's all. Peace and love. Ian Schaefer out. Where's the wild? Jack, this is you.
Max Montmorenos, Director of PD. Civil Industrial Night at Clark was good. Resume cover letter and lead code workshops ran. Regular meetings and stuff. EDI officer meeting to discuss some EDI initiatives. And then transitional stuff. Upcoming more transitional stuff. There's a tech night at Clark after the break, and yeah, that's it.
Kennedy Burgoyne, Director of Retail Services. What have been up to over the last 2 weeks? Statics with Lily, head managers and her retail deputies. Ad board for CEO and Goldemers, all of those went really well. Setting up head manager applications for next year, same with assistant managers. Organizing staff chats for second semester. Collecting feedback from managers, and then working under transition manuals and the typical service fires. Things you'll be doing over the next 2 weeks, statics with regular statics, holding staff chats, organizing end of year events, and finishing your transition manual. I will also entertain one guess for who the 3 pairs of feet are in the photo. If you're on the ED team and you were there, it makes it way less fun. Gosh, you guys suck. Okay, next.
Do we get the answer?
No.
Ex-staff director of student life, mug making. I love mugs. I actually made 3 mugs. I actually made 4, but I didn't like them. Don't tell them all. Dean's reception, got all the guest lists for the faculty, sending that out, figuring out the faculty donation money and just sending them kind of a confirmed note of what all their funds are being used for, and that's kind of emailing back and forth with the office of the dean kind of vibe. And student guest list, guys, I'm sorry, I promise it's coming, but there's so many of you. I'm overwhelmed. And then over the next 2 weeks, end week rebranding, trying to figure out how to get more engagement. And guys, I promise, the student guest list is almost here. It's probably over read week. Anyway, there's the Kermit the Frog mug. My FIPCO made it. It's the best thing I've ever seen. That's really it.
Right. Cool. So we now finished the first section of the reports. We're in question period 1. Anyone got any questions? Yeah. Go ahead.
Lucas Bailey, Engineering Center, question for the Director of Governance or somebody from the IT area. It was mentioned that the website is fixed. Yay! Me and Barbara found a couple of holes, so we'll let you know that later. It's okay. So the Director of Governance mentioned that the bylaw and policy are up to date, but I still find March ones on the site. Is that just something that needs to get through, or what's going on?
Total project director of governance. So the website, I have so much trouble with, and so I put all of the policy in. I don't know if you guys saw it. It's in the FCs for this week, so that all of you now have access to the most updated policy. I mean, I couldn't even change the link on the button for awards, and like I'm kind of on a prioritizing basis right now. I want award nominations.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I just wanted to clarify.
That was what, and like I spent like an hour today switching between like I do it on my laptop, and then I did it on my computer in the lounge, and I got other people to see like what it looked like from their end, and that was like one link, and like so just to give context for like yes, it's missing, and I'm like trying, Words has a lot of things like able to do it, and I've done it on like different devices, and they never seem to like sync. One changed sync because I was able to delete. There's like an award that doesn't exist anymore. It was on the website yesterday, and it's gone today. So there are some things. So like I know that it should be working. Okay, I guess you get it.
That was a good answer. Thank you, Chloe.
Further questions? One? Yeah.
I'm looking for Chloe. Are we allowed to have multiple people go to the awards day, or is that going to be one person sits for the 6 hours? Probably just
One representative at any one time. If you have to switch out, that would be fine. That happened last year. Someone has to leave and policy. I was in the room with them. So that would be fine. I will not let two of you sit there at the same time.
because you said, oh, all go 2 hours maybe.
Like if one of you can only attend for 3 and you're going to switch out for the other 3, fine. But the conversation needs to be balanced. So there can only be one person like in the room for each discipline.
Any further questions? E. Before you move into question E. Sorry. Okay, cool, great. Let's move on to the faculty board report. Who would like to give the faculty board report? Yep.
As a great there's like my faculty board rep. I had to make a written report this time, ironically enough, because direct entries are happening now. If you can pull that up, I guess they're on.
No.
Point
Point of information, no they aren't. They're being discussed.
Yeah, I know. I was going to clarify that.
Yeah,
here.
okay.
I was
Just didn't
sure
want anyone
things
to
were
panic.
happening, but I didn't put any details yet. You read my written report, you know that. General updates. The PAL quotas were given. The deans confident that our allocation is sufficient. The PALs are letters that international students also need to attend Queens. The one weird part is that this also attends to graduate students rather than just undergrads, as we talked about before, but we at least have that number and a sense is positive. Other news, specifically beneficial to the DCs in the room, that confidential comp sci enrollments are apparently down across the sector. They do think it's related to both industry trends and international enrollment, which is down this year. So please give me a job. Female applicants are at 27.6% this year, which is 5% higher than last year. And international student offers and grants are being sent out actively. And then I attached a couple documents and stuff like that that they had back and forth because I thought they were interesting and be good for people to look at them. There's some details on Massachusetts PhD, specifically on promotions, if that's something you're interested in. There's also, they released their report on DFAIs, and apparently 17% of the year.
7%, that 17% Dr. Frank did was due to this reporting number in the original report.
Okay, I did quote them on purpose. However, still very good. There's also an introduction of a PLO specific for quick graduates. These are basically graduation requirements that are similar style to CLOs, kind of. You don't really have to care about them, honestly, they'll be covered by your degree. I did check to make sure that this did not cause additional work for quick students. It does not. It's based on current assessments, but it basically just says that you learn how to do things in your internship. Direct entries, that's the fun thing. Okay, so basically what was brought to faculty board is just a notice / recommendation by the committee of heads to bring forward a motion to cause a hybrid direct entries. So the context, history-wise, is that last year a proposal was brought forward for the comp direct entry, and I've attached both of those documents as well. I do highly recommend reading through them. That first link is the initial one, and then we just on that. That's the shortest version of what happened there, but it was by no means short. We did bring it to council, and I had like 40 emails out in that council. And then this year, Dr. Conspulu reached out for a meeting with faculty board reps beforehand, and to put the idea of direct entries out on the table. We had that feedback, and they ended up still bringing this committee of heads report to faculty board, which we've also talked about a little bit briefly. And so now, on the table is this report, which I have also attached here. They basically support a hybrid implementation of direct entries and the guaranteed first choice. And a formal questions that were asked by faculty members and Lucas, I think, was one, where did the NSI programs fit in? Where an idea that was tossed out was considering admission as a group of the NSIs, in kind of a subset sort of style, in the same way that the direct entries would be like kind of a separate thing as the guaranteed first choice, et cetera, et cetera. They basically just said general, so it's not looking at any specifics just yet, and they're relying on admissions and recruitment offices for advisor. Another question was about the current allotment of 950 students. Would that shift? And the response that it wouldn't. And if the program was to grow in size, the direct entry would play roles for that. And then another question that was asked was how would admission averages be affected? And the response from the dean was that they have never lowered and that they will never, but the person who asked this question said that it seemed like that was not the case when he first started, which is interesting and it'd be good to keep an eye on in the long term. Basically, so you can actually get a sense of their rationale, what they were hoping to gain is kind of a collection of better advertising for OUAC and international students, significantly more predictable numbers in terms of logistics and classroom sizes and professor allocations, and focusing on bulking up the underrepresented programs, which they mentioned to be civil, chem, ed-chem, and mining. And our main thoughts, which of course anyone else is, please tune in if you don't agree or want to add anything, but this was the consensus that I got, was mostly focusing on improving first-year curriculum to make the smaller programs look more desirable. For example, Site 26's year of chem admissions were really, really low, and then they fixed 131 and 132, and then they immediately shot back up again. Crazy how that works. Otherwise, improving marketing to improve awareness about what disciplines actually go, what they are, and so first years can make significantly more educated decisions, especially with a lot of the elements only playing a part in your second semester. Like the only exposure you get to electronics is the very tail end of 112, and that's still not really realistic. And then otherwise, concerns around curriculum changes and scope creep over time. As ECE, we've been dealing quite a lot with the contract entry and the curriculum changes they've decided to make, and we're worried that things would get significantly worse as time goes on and we lose sight of the original arguments that were had. And a potential where who knows, maybe the guaranteed first choice gets removed altogether years down the line. Could happen. And then the last thought is that it would likely cause competitiveness and separation of the student body, and it's losing the spirit of community more and more, which you can see a little bit with Tron, but I do feel like this would expedite it significantly. Yeah, I just kind of want to give a general rundown, get some thoughts from people, because this will likely come up at the next one, and we should have the best sense of everything. Yeah.
If these are points we haven't
Point
stated.
of order.
Yes.
Given that Senate name as for complicated, I'm going to motion to extend council.
Oh, yeah, I was just to bring that up actually. So, technically we did not start at 6:30, we started at 6:45. So we have 20 minutes before we're gonna vote to extend council for 3 minutes.
I will still second.
Okay, cool. I'll keep that in mind for when I vote. Just so you guys all know, just to make it clear, we started at 6:45. Today we started a bit late because of the hassle of finding the room. At 9:45 we're gonna have to vote to extend council for another half hour. Or we do all of the reports super quick, but we'll probably have to extend it. Just okay, cool. Is that all from faculty board? Cool. We'll now move into the report from AMS. Who is able to give the report today?
David McFadden, Vice President of Plan Administration. Jack and Mel were both present at AMS. Okay, Mel will gladly take this report.
We're Bobby Scientist on AMS rep for a big discussion that happened. This AMS was first of all, we have a new elected AMS president executive team. We have a new VP of University of Finance and Operations. I wish I knew their name, I've forgotten. But they're good people, great things are happening, and they are transitioning to very shortly. One big change that was happening is that ORT was majorly under the VPUA or our version of VPSA. Now they're trying to move it to the press portfolio, since most of the faculties already have their OV team under the press portfolio, and since press connections are more UN connected, they wanted to make that change. There's a big motion that was passed. Apart from that, not a lot of big changes. Previous motions that were adopted with the voting referendum was accepted and things like that, but the biggest change was the change made to ORB. Thank you.
Lucas Baylor, Engineering Center. Thank you for bringing that up. However, I will be referring mostly to my written report of the agenda. Thanks for bringing that up. But yeah, I provide those written reports as a more political means of what happened because context is so much at Senate. Myself and Senator Bro delivered most of what happened at Senate the last time. But just to recap, we passed a motion that was kind of illegal because Senate can't order the senior leadership to do certain things, but we just asked them to tell us more, and they said they were going to ignore it. So that's going to be interesting in how we go forward. But we had a very good conversation about the bicentennial plan. Thank you to everybody who had the conversation with me earlier. Please, I really encourage you as student leaders to come up and talk to me, email me. I want to be as available as possible as I can on that one. We had a meeting with the dean, and as well as I've got one with the vice provost coming up. It looks like they're going to be shifting some students around again for the class of 2030. I've been quoted a couple different numbers. I don't want to cite anything yet because it hasn't been finalized, but it looks like we're going to be adding an extra tutorial section to engineering, taking away from the arts. Is due to the art site tax thing I was talking about earlier. Research plan went through, which was good. We're really working on trying to figure out our engagement with the student body. Now that Senate is finally moving a bit better, it's been pretty bogged down and not actually having a lot of say in stuff. It's been mostly through the committees, but we're bringing more back actually to the floor of Senate, as well as the engineering centers have actually learned how we can effectively do our jobs because that got lost. FIFCOs have been doing great. Thank you, Dopey team. You gave me really good FIFCOs, except they take after me way too much in their inability to say no to volunteering. Yeah, we're going to be working on some stuff, and I'm submitting some referrals. Dr. Jane Stotts made a good point at faculty board. Apparently, when the university said that they fixed religious-based accommodations, really they just put all the effort on the faculty. So I'm going to be looking into that and getting Senate policies fixed on that one so that if you have religious accommodations, you can actually use Ventus and all the other systems that we have, and it's even. I'm going to be writing a referral specifically on leadership scholarships because our GPA requirement to renew a leadership-focused scholarship is way higher than most other leadership-based scholarships, which I think is dumb. And student representation of the Senate. This won't affect us too much, other than the fact that we tend to agree with STEM-based disciplines, and computing and health sciences are noticeably absent on Senate, and based on a 1971 precedent, yes, I went that far back, they should be on Senate. So we're going to be doing that, and we're trying to figure out a town hall because we're realizing that there's a lot of things that we need to get general student input on in ways that we haven't previously. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for earlier again. Oh, sorry. I need to get a position. Okay, now you can go.
Oh, yeah, I know all about the bylaw relating to first-year jackets, but I don't really know why it's relevant to what you talked about.
That's a bit, or should I interrupt?
That makes sense. Okay.
It's a chat conversation?
Irrelevant to council, but good job.
No, I'm old sleeves!
Okay. Alright, cool. We'll now move into a report from the Engineering Review Board.
Hi, Connor Bose, the Engineering Review Board Chair. A lot of this actually was accurate as of Monday when I wrote this report, and now it is no longer accurate, so the wonderful of verbal reports. Here we ran the Stockholm Augusta raffle last week. I didn't do anything. I sat off to the side and watched them with a wheel of names. It was really fun. Names had numbers on them too, so we didn't even know who it was. We continue grinding away at all the SOPs that I want to write. There's a solid chunk done there. I answered questions from Hunter Lowers. I've got a couple people reaching out to me, which is super exciting. The future of the ERB. I've got great plans to transition them. It's just a matter of actually getting them to exist. and then move all the internal ERB reports up to what I was doing over the last 2 weeks. I spent 6 hours today sitting in the ILC working on a couple of reports in particular. One will be done and sent out shortly, and I'm gonna, I guess, make a new template for council reports to move forward. Over the next 2 weeks, a reminder, your transition manuals are due Friday of week 8. It's been expressed to me that people are worried I'm going to remove their jokes from their transition manuals or something like that. I am not going to edit any of your transition manuals at all. The goal of me seeing your transition manual is it is the ERB's way of being able to see, all right, here's what policy says you should be doing as a director. Here's what your manual says, this is what you're supposed to be doing as a director. I have to cross-reference that. If you're missing something that you're supposed to be doing, I'm going to send it back to you and go, hey, can you beat this up a little bit? We just want to make sure that our transition documents are going to support ensuring that our next ED team can continue to do their jobs in the best way possible. I'm not going to be mean about it, but I am going to be thorough about it. So I hope that quells any fears you might have about me being super mean about it. I'll continue working with the SOPs. I write my own transition manual, which Maddie knows is not my strong suit after writing the ones for both Jack and Liam way back in the day. I'm meeting with current Do It tomorrow morning, and now I'm BPFA elect. Talk with the NDAs, the new ED team, and I'm going to start finishing the lower, and then sci formals, which is going to be a lot, but it's there. So thank you.
Don't be afraid about submitting a report to Connor, because when I got mine from him, it was like week 4, and it was full of jokes, and it was half unfinished. So don't worry. Whatever you submit, it'll be great. I hope. Okay. Nice meeting you. Advisory board.
Yeah, I'm Mohammed, advisory board chair. Advisory board have to have the mid-year review for Golden Works and CEO. CEO once went double, but also good. Also good, and we are finalizing having the new faculty member after our other faculty members stepped down at the beginning of the year, which will also be brought up in AGM, as AGM is where advisory board members get elected. Speaking of that, we are looking for advisory board members. If you want to do an advisory board, please reach out to me. Please, please, please reach out to me. Please, please, please. Okay.
Thank you very much, advisory board. We will now move into the club boards. In my notes it said Sunny. I don't know if this is the Sunny group or the Happy group. I'm pretty sure this is Sunny. I think so. Okay, cool. We're first going to hear from Apple, after which we will say nerds. Apple.
Nerds. Our CAB visit went really well. We get to talk to them. Our banquet's on March 19th in the Municipal Media Center. Tickets coming out this week. And our merch is coming out next week as well. March 19th.
Thank you very much, Apple. We're the best. Next, we're going to hear from Chem and Chem, after which we will say fumes.
Chem and Chem.
Fumes. We also had CAB visit. We're starting banquet planning. We have 2 rough dates and locations in mind, either Holiday Inn on March 29th or Grand March 27th, just depending on finances. Go with the process schedule for February 22nd right now. Merch is designed, made, forms are being sent out. And we're thinking about adding a communications role to our DSC, just to do more for social media, so it's a lot less on VP externals right now.
Thanks so much. We're now going to hear from Sybil, after which we will say beams.
Beams. Hockey game went well. The contents are going both to Lumber banquet tickets as well as to charities. We're unsure which should be right now, but we're looking at now. Banquet tickets are now in our banquet March 18th at Benton Hall, and our CAB meeting also that day, and you were super impressed with us, so that was all.
I'm true after. Thanks so much, Skill. Sybil, we will now hear from Gio, after which we will say rocks. Is there anyone in Sybil here? Gio, that's what I meant to say. Okay. Well. Rocks. Yeah, I think.
Point of order. Town was ERB chair. Does Director Sad have a report from the GEO committee or GEO council?
have like a clerk night or something. Wasn't a lot.
Thanks for those updates, Council. The Director of Governance will send them in.
I'm good at that.
Okay, cool. That's the club reports. We're now gonna do the year reports. Starting, we will now hear first from Sci 2 High 5.
Sci 2 High.
Jewel Sampson, Sci 2 5 Vice President. We've been working on merch, specific gibbets, seeing the quote on those. We've started to prepare to collect pictures for a yearbook, and we've been talking to Clark about our thank you.
Thank you so much, Sci 2 5. Next we will hear from Sci 2 6 feet short of the tan.
Sci 2 6.
Rush! Okay, so as far as Sci 2 6 President, no new updates. We're just waiting on our merch coming, so we saw it.
Okay, fair enough. Now we'll hear from the best year, Sci 2 7 years to pick a name.
Point of order. I challenge the speaker.
Would you like me to resay this?
Well, no, I'm challenging the statement that Sci 27 is the best year.
Move. We're gonna keep going.
It's been seconded. You don't have a choice. Fine.
We're now gonna hear from Sci 2 7 years to pick a name.
Sci 2 7.
Rush!
Michael, Vice President, Michael's not here, our president. We haven't done anything since our last council. We're looking at the merch. Chalk boxes. Possibly doing this aspect, trying to organize that, but
Thank you so much, Sci 2 7. I know the Sci 2 8s are. Alright, okay, cool. We will now hear from Sci 2 8.
Sci 2 8.
Rush!
Okay, this is Jackson's update. So they've reached out to professors to get consent for an impersonation night. So far they have Abelson and Folk on board. They're just trying to get a few more. They're in cahoots with the Commerce Trust to plan some fun rivalry. The meeting is set up for after reading week, and they're still waiting to hear back from the CEO on their merch report quotes and starting to plan how and where they're going to sell it. And then they're starting up for some more help for the side formal coach.
Thank you so much for the reports from all the years. I'll remind you that we are not yet done council, so please don't start packing up the time yet. We are still here. We're going to move into the statements and questions from members section. I don't know which one of you came first. Write it down. Go ahead.
Statement. Government Party Sci 2 7 AMS rep. After going through my notes, I realized I missed a big part of the last AMS council. One of the big things, and actually a very controversial thing that came up was essentially the Queen's University has this written in their trademark policy, I believe, where they get a power that anything that represents Queen spirit or Queen's in nature, they can sort of regulate it, especially merch or anywhere we have used their logos onto it. So they get to regulate things, not just the things that are being trademarked, but things that essentially if they deem it to represent Queens, let's say we are a Queen's club, a Queen's design team, or anything that's Queen's-ish, they get to be the ones to sort of approve the designs we release, and only then it gets to be sold or posted anywhere. So this rule has been in place for a long time is what we're told, but essentially they decided now to enforce it all of a sudden, and that obviously created a lot of controversy. Since sort of something already on place, the Tricolor and every other operations in the AMS side have been fighting it, because clearly enforcing it is a huge mess in the process, and obviously it was collectively recognized by the council. It curbs the students' creativity and expression, essentially, because we have to wait for them is against this, or they want some changes to be made to this and present it to the faculty, university, essentially. So that was a big process happening. Does anyone have any questions about that? Oh, yeah.
Noted as the press director of communications. I was just wondering how they actually plan on enforcing that.
So,
So basically, it comes down. Former Department, thank you. Essentially, like in terms of enforcement, it's through the licensed vendors. So, like for example, Prime Time of CEO is also encountering Jackson issue. If you go through any of the licensed established vendors, that Queens have a list of their
vendors that they have, like their legal team has talked to, and if you go to them and say, hey, will you produce something with the key you want, they will go no unless you give me like the full like stamp of approval from Queens itself. If you go to an external vendor who is not licensed by Queens, you can still produce it, but the risk there is that you produce it, Queens sees it on campus, and then they email you with like a cease and desist. But like in terms of enforcement, like it's through their vendors that are like upholding the legality.
I have to interrupt this right now. We are just about to end council, so I'm going to entertain a motion to extend council for half an hour. Moved, seconded. This is a procedural motion. We're just going to do a quick vote. We need 2/3 of you, otherwise this meeting will immediately end. Can I see votes for the motion to extend council for half an hour, please?
You don't have to go half hour.
We don't. Thank you very much. Can I see votes against and just ending the meeting right now? Would you like that noted in the minutes? Thank you. Are there any abstentions? All right, we got another half hour.
To essentially add to Bob's point, basically what the AMS exec had to say is that they're not targeting the smaller parts of the Queens clubs. Essentially, they're more so right now going for the bigger things that directly represent Queens. So when people think of Queens merch, think of those parties. So that's the status right now. But obviously enforcing it all of a sudden with no clear reason does bring a huge problem up.
Just to add to that, that's one of the examples that Tricolor and CO is having right now is they cannot produce merch on green color for St. Paddy because Queens believe that promotes party. So that's the problems that they're currently having with Tricolor and CO. So is OTD with comics. All of them are having issues with that.
They're very obsessed with the color green. They're so against it. It's so awful. Any other questions?
Tanner Owen, Director of Design. Just about the AMS president's writing a responses. Do you know when it's going to be written, or when like we expect our backlash to be sent to them?
I don't remember that being a timeline, but essentially Jack also proposed that all the faculty separately show their disagreement with it rather than writing as AMS. So I believe there are changes being made to it. I suppose they will bring it up in the president caucus and then perhaps decide it. I'm not exactly sure of the timeline. Any other questions?
Thank you very much. Are there any further statements or questions from members? Yes, Senator.
Lucas Baylog, Engineering Center. Real quick, DSC's heads up. Curriculum and calendar changes are coming to faculty board in the next couple months. I will be sending you an email when they do. Basically, that's all the changes to courses, whether it be number of labs and lectures, or if they're just completely removing it from the calendar next year. As a mechatronics student, I'm imagining chem and mining don't want me deciding what courses I should fight for and which ones I should stay silent about. That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, I'm the vice board chair. Just as comments to faculty board report is that for the direct entry, as someone who has not worked a lot with the faculty when it comes to recruitment and marketing, really enough last year they really refused the ideas of us bringing up the fact that direct entry computer is a very small, tiny program, which kind of infers the fact that they really do plan to expand. So I feel that it's a very possibility that them bringing the direct entry now is just them doing let's add 10 more students every year until it's all direct entry. So the fact that they didn't really want us bringing up the fact that it's a smaller program when it comes to marketing, really seeing that fact. And also the same idea of marketing, maybe if we see the problem is the fact that it doesn't show up in OUC, then we can learn from how other universities that have a common first year, not a free decimal choice, just a common first year like Western or any other universities, how do they solve it? Because they also show up in OUC as a direct entry. It's just not a direct entry, it's just a common first year, so just as like engineering. So maybe you can learn from their marketing guy. No, it's not just the only issue of big part, but it's financial, so mechanical engineering, mining, all of those have a specific number. But I mean, if they're arguing about marketing, you could also argue this fact. Those two comments.
Thank you very much. Are there any further statements or questions from members? I will now entertain a motion to end council. Motion. Oh, I'm so sorry. There is. It is. Chloe, just tell us who won the gift. Great. I will now entertain a motion to end council. Moved. Seconded. Can I see votes for the motion, please? Can I see votes against the motion, please? Is he placard down? Are there any abstentions? All right, it passed. Bye, guys.
Wait, Gordon, lead us out.
Gordon, lead us out. Start singing
I might break my right.
She gets paid for that.
$80 is not worth it to be here.